Hello, hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. These plates don't juggle themselves, folks. Sometimes you wish they did. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And those sound effects that you just heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, Brooklyn's finest, representing BK to the fullest, one agent _70.
Peace. What's up, everybody?
Cook and roll with the Brooklyn boys. So for one last time, I need y'all to roll.
It's nice to have so much diversity in your sound bites for the place that you've come from.
Brooklyn represent in
Exactly.
so many songs.
Exactly.
I was about to say, we're talking a little bit behind the scenes here, folks. You know, that we're dropping hints at some of our attempts at finding Roddykat some new sound drops. You know, for to reflect what he's representing. So.
Yeah, not a lot of good stuff for South Carolina, specifically South Carolina. Closest thing we got is Peter Pablo, and that's North Carolina. So just neither here nor there. But that's okay. Maybe I should get off Twitter.
I was about to say, at least in the genres we're looking for, you know.
Yes, exactly. Gotta keep it a certain type of way. But regardless, folks, what's that?
So we're keeping it 100.
There you go. Exactly. But this being the Comic Book Chronicles, you can find this here podcast on the Coastal of the Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
And every time I say US, I keep thinking of the movie The Toy. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Ooh.
It's an old Richard Pryor movie, which I should shout out because I think wasn't his birthday just recently? Was it the first? I believe it was. Regardless,
I have not watched that movie.
oh man, it's.
I was about to say, that's a deep cut.
Well, yeah, that's an old ass movie because it was like late 70s, I believe. Either late 70s, early 80s, one of those two. I'm not sure if it holds up too much nowadays with some of the language or whatnot. But hey, it was a thing. Or even the plot, not seriously, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, it's like there's a character in it. There's like Jackie Gleason's wife in there keeps saying, well, Jackie Gleason's character's name is U.S. and she's got a southern drawl, so she keeps saying U.S. and it keeps sounding like U.S. So
Goodness.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyway, you can also find this here podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, which apparently just did their 2020 Wrapped thing. If that is the thing if you're interested in, and also, of course, the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
And forgive us for not. We have to work on getting our Spotify feed up so that I can actually show that the Comic Book Chronicles is my #1 podcast on my Spotify feed.
Indeed, yeah, it might be a little too late for this year, but since they'd already done that, mine, I took it up mine. It was like a whole bunch of songs that didn't even come out in 2020, which is not that big of a surprise for me. But
My songs are from the 90s or 80s.
yeah, basically, yeah.
So what are you gonna do?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a couple of. I think there's probably a couple of 2019s. It was amusing regardless, but we are fastly approaching the end of the year, which I guess I'll go ahead and say right now. Not only are we approaching the end of the year, we're approaching our 400th episode.
What?
Yep. This is episode 393 that we are recording right now. So probably a little after the beginning of the year will be 400.
Dang.
Actually, no, not even probably, but definitely.
Definitely.
now the reason why I say that is because one, the 400th episode is coming up, but also we are going to actually try to do the year of the end of the year show that we normally do sometime, right after the beginning of the new year. Actually, this time because we didn't do it this year. Things didn't come together. COVID kind of fucked. Well, honestly, I can't really blame COVID because normally we'd have done it well before that even happened.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't help, So hopefully in the beginning of the new year, we are absolutely gonna. And since at least one of us has gotten our stuff done, we'll just recap what they put in. At the very least, it was like
right. That's right. One of us did take care of 2019's year end. Hey.
I can't imagine who that person would be. Who would be? Oh wait, this one. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, the video's flipped.
Survey says.
I know, right? Which why is my video flipped again? Because it should not be. Anyway, that's we're not gonna worry about that right now. But yeah, so we're gonna get into some comic books. Oh wait, I'm sorry. One last thing. We record live every Thursday night, of course. Thursday night, 9:30ish p.m. Except for last week, which was Thanksgiving. Actually, we should probably see what's going on. Christmas is going to be Christmas Eve, so it might be another situation like that again coming up in the next couple of weeks. So We'll let you know a little closer ahead of time how that's going to go. But you can definitely check us out on twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. So if you're over there checking us out right now, hey, how you doing? Or youtube.com/TheClickNation. That's TheKliqNation.
And however you take in our podcast or video show, hit the subscribe button.
Oh, gosh. we were just talking about that.
Please subscribe. Give us 5-star or 4-star reviews, whichever one applies.
I mean, yeah, do all of that. Check out the Twitch channel. Like I said, the most recent shows that we've been doing have been staying up there. We'll try to do something about. Actually, I do have a stream I want to do on that channel coming up fairly soon. So hopefully, stay tuned for social media for that.
Absolutely, and if you listen on Apple Podcasts, leave us the 5-star reviews. So.
Yeah, definitely do that. Hook us up, help us out, all that kind of goodness. Why is this not? I got a problem with Twitch sometimes. Anywho, so let us get into some books. And so we said we were going to start off with this week's Black Widow #4.
Yes. So just to start things off, let me run through the creative team. This is written by Kelly Thompson with art by Elena Casagrande and Jordi Belair on colors. This is for the present day scenario, present day parts of the story, and Carlos Gomez on art and Federico Blee on colors for the flashbacks.
Indeed. Now, I have, when we talked about this book in the past, I have likened it to a movie. Wait, when is Long Kiss Goodnight? I was like 90s, right?
Yeah, like late 90s. No, mid 90s, mid to late 90s, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Regardless, it's a 90s era movie. If some of you might be younger than that movie, or
Good Lord.
We might
96.
have
96.
Yeah, we might actually have some fans younger than 96. Or maybe not fans, but people who watch the show who might be younger than 96. But regardless, I'll say all of that to say that there is some similarities to at least the last couple of issues of this miniseries. Not to say that that's a terribly bad thing, but if you're old enough to know what it is, you can recognize it for what it is. So if you did not know, the short strokes is the first issue, Black Widow. We kind of talked about this before, so I won't really go into it. The Black Widow gets kidnapped, and she ends up being found in California with a new life and a husband and kid. But she's strangely has not necessarily have flashes of her old life, but some of her old abilities kind of come into play. And let's just say that at the end of last issue, the reset button got hit on that because the people who set it all up kind of got panicky. And actually, in this one, they still kind of got more panicky because now that the reset button's going to hit, she's aware of who she is and everything. And that's pretty much going to set off the next couple of issues of this book. Because I think it's 5 issues.
I'm not sure. It seems like it. Although we have to double check the solicitation of the book. But in the meantime, what this mini cabal had intended to do was to end this little scenario, this farce essentially, and kill the Black Widow. But instead, it all backfired on them, and it all basically, in trying to fry her brain, they essentially just reset. They basically canceled their control over her, and Natasha found herself remembering everything, and we do mean everything, because I felt like this was a really, an outstanding issue, and it filled in all of the blanks after Nat was almost killed by the implant. Nat herself fills us in with some, and this is straight from my notes, some glorious narrative exposition of what she could recall of her captivity by this little mini cabal, and how this instant nuclear family all of a sudden materialized,
and as some would say at the end of this issue, dematerialized.
Exactly. Roddykat just jumped to the part where I think this was the deciding factor in us starting with this book, because and talk about cliffhanger pages, right?
Yeah.
Talk about cliffhanger pages. We've gotten into the habit of calling these these cliffhanger pages at the end of, just calling these cliffhanger pages at the end of the books or end of stories, where we're left hanging on the seat of our on the edge of our seats, waiting for the next issue. But in the meantime, just to fill in, once Nat remembers everything, her entire backup team, which has kind of been off camera this entire time, all of a sudden emerges, and they extract her out of this particular scenario, but they find themselves on the run. And ultimately, as Roddykat mentioned, a particular problem that I guess we all saw in terms of complicating Natasha's life was resolved, obviously, in the script written by Kelly Thompson, but ostensibly by these, bad guys, this mini cabal I was talking about before, and left us with this cliffhanger page, and we're all like, oh snap, they just did that.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly. And that wasn't even expected. It was like, okay, maybe they're going to play with this a little bit. Now, there is the other side of that, talking in that maybe by some weird miracle, what we saw is not necessarily the case. I kind of doubt it.
Right.
By some kind of crazy way. But, stranger things have happened in comic books. So, we'll see next issue. But I feel like at this point, now that seems like that's, that kid ain't the kid who's been dubbed Houdini throughout the course of this issue probably didn't have the wherewithal to escape what happened at the end of this issue. Mm-hmm. But I was going to go back and say something about you were talking about how the way she explained the situation to us and the person that she was talking to, which was her quote unquote husband, was actually almost kind of poetic in the way the way the narration was off. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed that part too. But also it's Nat. So
it was really well done. Yeah. I haven't seen that kind of narrative exposition in a while, where we were, obviously it helped that the art was in sync with what Kelly Thompson was saying about, well, this is what happened, and then this happened, and it just really illustrated it. Even though we were getting a lot of narrative exposition, we were getting a lot of words telling us what was happening, the art really did go hand in hand and really made it just a really interesting read. And and as I said, we get to the part where we get to the cliffhanger page. It was a pretty enjoyable ride. I'm actually probably going to go back and get the last two issues. I picked up the first two issues for the J. Scott Campbell variant covers, but I think I'm going to try to fill in the rest of these issues for this miniseries because it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
As Roddykat snickers at my choice in variant covers, so
I love it. But
if you like what you like,
Huh? I mean, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not knocking it at all. It's just funny when it comes up. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything we need to say. If you are a fan of Black Widow, this is probably one to check out. Like it's I'm not sure if fun is the right word for that, especially with what happened at the end of the book, but it's been quite entertaining. Like whether you knew about the movie that I feel like this is referencing or not.
Right. If not at least loosely referencing. There's definitely the effort to tie in some of the characters that one are already in the cinematic universe and two who are about to be introduced into the cinematic universe.
Right. Yeah. Which yeah, exactly. And this is also another as we I think I probably said when this book started, like she's got a it's another in another miniseries where Black Widow's got a movie, and either she or the people that's going to be associated with this movie, it's got some comics books out. So
right,
because that I think that Widowmakers that came out that I talked about like a couple of weeks ago was like a one shot, I believe. So which had Yelena in it, who shows up in this book, and one Red Guardian, who's also both were going to be in the movie. So there you go. Doubt Winter Soldier and Bucky's gonna. I mean, Doubt Winter Soldier and well, we know Hawkeye is because they're explaining Budapest, but
right.
We don't know if Winter Soldier's going to be in the book because they haven't really done the legwork to do the whole, connecting them two together in the MCU.
He established them separately.
Right.
In Winter Soldier.
Right. Now, that's not saying that it was like, oh, yeah, so, I remember there was a frozen dude in the Red Room, or something like that. They could very well do that into it, but I don't know why they would at this point. So, but regardless, that is Black Widow number 4. It was a pretty good read. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what the next issue is going to be, to see if that's just it, or there's going to be a little bit more to it. I feel like that it's definitely a self-fulfilling prophecy thanks to what the villains did. At the if not already at the end of the last issue, but at the end of this issue, definitely it's gonna have them. If they weren't, if she wasn't already gonna go after them already after waking up, then this is definitely good setting her hot on their trail. But there's only a couple more issues left, and there's a bunch of them, so it's how they're gonna resolve that is gonna be interesting. So. Move around along to another book.
I was about to say, I'm just looking up right now to see if in the solicitations it says, it says Black Widow. It doesn't say that this is a limited series.
Huh.
I thought it was.
I thought those so too. Because we know the last one was, because the last one was only like 5 or 6 issues or whatever, however it was, and they hadn't necessarily been like, even the last ongoing they gave Black Widow ended up ending relatively shortly. So,
oh yeah, like 20 plus, 20 something issues maybe, something like that, or not quite 20 maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it was that many, honestly. It did get double digits. I do remember that point, but
yeah, at least in the Diamond solicitations for this week, it doesn't list any like issue 4 of whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't see it on Comixology either. So maybe, I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's not necessarily saying that it's not a miniseries, but that's not really enough information to say one way or the other, I guess. Because I feel like I remember them saying before this came out that this was a miniseries, but who knows?
Same. That's why I didn't question. That's why I was kind of surprised to see that myself in the solicitations.
Mm-hmm. So hey, stay tuned. Maybe this is another Savage Avengers situation. Although at least, well, we still don't know when that's actually ending. And actually, that came out this week. Maybe we'll talk about it later. So let's get to another book from this week. Did you read that Fantastic Four?
I did not, but if you want to talk about it, go ahead.
No. I'll save that for Rapid. It's it is what it is. Let's go ahead and get the X stuff out of the way. Actually, so let's go to Hellions number 7.
Just very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
it's by Zeb Wells with art by Steven Segovia and colors by David Curiel.
Thank you. So yeah, we are moving past Ten of Swords because that was last week. However, there's, as almost say, not necessarily fallout, but of course they got to deal with things that have happened in the event. People that got killed or whatever the case may be. And these two issues, Hellions number 7 and X Factor number 5, seem to be taking care of that. I don't know if there are going to be any other issues of any other X books. Probably X-Men is probably going to be like, hey, here's the Quiet Council's part in this or whatever the case may be. But I would reckon that this month's books is pretty much going to be, kind of putting everything back to normal, I guess. Just, as far as their lives are concerned, everything that happened in the event happened. People died, people came back. So somebody got a new addition to their family. All that's probably going to bear out in this month's book. So in Hellions number 7, we start off with Mr. Senator, or I guess we could say technically a clone of Mr. Senator. We don't even know who's the real clone or not, but we know he's got other clones of him. But basically Sinister's crying, is bawling his eyes out, putting up a show to the Quiet Council about the loss of his team, which, as we all know, he had a hand in, the biggest hand in, coming out of Araco. And we come to find out between this and the next issue that we're going to talk about with X Factor number 5, that those people are back but changed. But as far as the Hellions are concerned, some of the members that got killed over in either Over the World or Araco came back changed, a little more, as they say in here, focused. With the exception of one. So Wild Child, who got killed over there, and Nanny got killed over there, they came back and they've got not necessarily a redesign, but they've been, I guess, updated.
And maybe improved. That's one of the funny things that came up in the story, is that the term that they used was honed.
Yes.
With some of the unnecessary parts of their personalities stripped away and really taking them to the peak of their powers. And it's an interesting way to see both Nanny and Wild Child.
Right. Because I believe both of those characters, I know Nanny for sure is a product of the 90s.
Definitely.
And I should say Nanny and Orphan Maker, who they discussed, because that's pretty much going into the next mission that they do in this issue. But Wild Child, I'm not too sure about him. I'm assuming the same thing, though.
What?
That he's like a product of the 90s?
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, he's a product of the Age of Apocalypse era. Before that, too.
Gotcha.
Just before Age of Apocalypse, he was a product of, I believe, X-Force, because Wild Child was, I think, one of the characters that came out of that whole rush of character creation around Rob Liefeld. and Louis Simonson kind of creating X-Force out of New Mutants.
Sure.
So, what I was going to mention, speaking of 90s characters, another 90s character shows his head. I'm not sure if this is for the first time in a long time. I did not do the research, but I'm shocked to see this name pop up again on the cliffhanger page at the end of the issue.
Oh yes.
I'm like, Roddykat.
I'm like, wait, what? Who are you talking about? Then, because what I have it in my notes, I basically said is like, oh look, another old X event playmate shows up, which that should give you some kind of hint, not necessarily the fullest hint, but yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that character showing up too. But then again, after the last arc, when this book started, I can't say I'm surprised, given the first arc. But yeah, so going through the rest of the issue in the short strokes is that like I said, they talk about, you know, they basically talk about, hey, you know, everybody that's died, they're coming back, and the people that came back, the you know, the folks that died when they came back to Krakoa, they're fine. There's that whole conversation with Emma and Alex, which I'm assuming is going to come up somewhere else. But the focus was, you know, the characters that died while over in either Oracle or Otherworld, which was Wild Child, Orphan Maker, and Nanny. And of course, we just talked about Wild Child and Nanny. But the other part of that, which has which the team is, the team's next mission is going to be apparently, and I did not know. Like, I remember Nanny and the Orphan Maker from like X Factor. And I don't remember. I even forgot he was actually mutant. That's why I was like, even when he showed up, I was like,
I don't think it was very clear,
right
from the beginning. I don't think it was very clear at all. And if I'm not mistaken, we actually questioned his inclusion and Nanny's inclusion in the X stories as the books were being solicited and announced at the beginning of Dawn of X,
right,
when Hailee was initially announced. So this, I think, is a revelation to all of the readers in both Nanny and Orphan Maker are mutants.
Right. So, but yeah, and I was going to do the legwork and go back and you know, do a little research on that, but I was like, did I do that before now? So it relatively doesn't matter. But regardless, apparently with Orphan Maker's X gene will mess the world up. So they still have him in stasis because of the resurrection protocols.
Right.
And we find out here that, and I believe I do remember this part because from X Factor or whatever, it's like if his suit gets cracked, there's a problem. But yeah, so the team, they basically say that, well, they can't resurrect him until that problem gets dealt with, and apparently they got to go find Nanny's ship, who is, which I guess we should have, now that I think about it, we should have probably had some semblance of what's going to happen, what was going to come up at the end of the book, because they said that well, Nanny's ship is in the custody of the Right, which is an old ex villain group, and that the team is going to go and get the ship so that they can make Orphan Maker a new armor, so that, you know, the world doesn't get messed up once he gets resuscitated. So the team, halfway through this, after this happens, they get this mission from Sinister, but of course, Sinister being the only one technically alive, even though that's a clone and not necessarily him, because he had died also, like when they came back. But the rest of the team is like, well, we don't know how he died, and Sinister's not Sinister's not really, you know, telling them. So when they get the mission briefing, they're like, so what happened? And he's being cagey, but then Psylocke's like, all right, look, we're going on this mission because she has a thing of her own, which I'm trying to remember if this part that shows up that they talk about was discussed before. I know her and Sinister had some sort of thing going on, but I don't know. I don't remember going into that first arc.
I want to say this is connected to the Fallen Angels book.
Possibly. I thought about that too, but I was like, yeah, because I do remember when whatever happened here with her and her daughter, and there was some stuff in that book about it. And I would assume somewhere in the first arc, or at least in the first couple of issues, or the first issue of Hellions, that's when this deal of theirs or whatever have you got struck. So, Psylocke has her own agenda as to why she's, following Sinister up, despite Sinister not being trustworthy, and everybody knows something possibly happened to them that Sinister is involved with coming out of the Arakko situation. Which I was going to also say that going back to this was I think we've also said it before with Ten of Swords, this was a perfect opportunity to kind of, I guess, kill off and resuscitate some characters with new, up to dated, or clean them up a little bit, I guess. So
a little.
Yeah, so this is kind of them doing a little bit of that in with a couple of members of this team. I'm trying to remember if we don't hear about this in this one, or if it's X Factor where we hear. I know we hear about a couple other people in X Factor. So I don't know if you have anything else to say about this, or we can push on to that.
Oh, we can. I was about to say we can move on. We're just going to keep finding out about some of the other effects of dying in Amenth and or Arakko had. So
Right.
we will continue to see that play out in the aftermath of Ten of Swords. But we can move on to the other X book of the week, which is X Factor number 5. It's written by Leah Williams with art by David Baldion and colors by Israel Silva. This actually picks up where we left off before Ten of Swords, with the team establishing the cause of death of Wind Dancer so she could be resurrected. In really, really broad strokes, because there's a lot going on in this issue.
Yeah.
There are several interesting character developments in this issue. Not just for the team members of X Factor, but also for just several of the mutants that are living on Krakoa right now. And the issue actually ends with another mystery placed into X Factor's hands. So we're coming right off of that initial opening arc, interrupted only briefly. I believe X Factor only had one Ten of Swords crossover issue, so we're right back to where we were prior to Ten of Swords. So
Right.
Interruption was minimal, and anyone who decries the fact that crossovers tend to interrupt ongoing stories,
And they do.
it's not that big a deal in this case.
No,
In
in
other
fact,
cases, it is not in this one.
right, because even in fact in this one, even in that that Ten of Swords book, pretty much the crux of that issue was restated here in a throwaway line.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the issue where they were talking about what happened to Rockslide at this was near the beginning of Ten of Swords, and they were talking about that, which that comes up again, in this issue, because they spent a little bit of time talking about that, because there was some interruption. So they basically go from like Agent 70 said, it pretty much picks up at the end of the mission, but also kind of pretty much catches the book up with what happened after, with the goings on of the resurrection protocols, after or during Ten of Swords. So you definitely get a lot of dialogue with that in mind. Yeah, that's not necessarily much more to say. That there was definitely the chat with Emma and Danny was a thing, which I just thought that was kind of weird, because why is that happening in this book? But at the same time, all of the X books are kind of shared, so none of that actually matters, or kind of like it used to be in the matter. I mean, back in the 90s, because a lot of times of there's a bunch of X-Men and they doing things in the New Mutants book, or some kind of variation therein during the course of any of the books, with the exception of X Factor in the beginning. But that ended up changing, at least in the original run. But there was, like I said, the throwaway line about how Gorgon's back, but now different, or acting
Right.
strange. So I'm assuming we're going to see what's going on with that in another issue, if they plan on, or another issue of one of the other books, if they plan on doing that.
Exactly. I guess that's the remain. I mean, that's the primary. That was the primary casualty in the duels.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to find out, I guess, in one of the other books or this book. So
Right. Or if that's just it. I was like, oh, here you go, he's back, and that's it, and let go. So yeah, that's pretty much a question. The only thing I had a question about was, do you know who that kid was that Rachel and them were talking to? Talking about he had
Which
the acoustic kinesis.
I thought it was kind of I thought that was like a random insert. That's why I was mentioning a whole host of kind of random character developments,
right.
because I had a feeling that that character is going to come back and play some role, but that was just so random that
Right.
it seemed as though, we don't know where this particular mutant comes from. We don't know if it's a resurrection. We don't know if it's someone who's been brought in via the Marauders. We don't know.
Right.
So it was just a very odd kind of drop in, but they tend not to be left alone like that. I think this character is going to come back at some point.
Right. Yeah. They basically use these two. Like I said earlier, these YouTubers to say, "Hey, everything's starting to get back to normal." But I would imagine there's still going to be a little bit more of that in the rest of the books from this month. But that part was the only part was like you said, it was kind of random because this whole book was like, "Hey, things for X Factor is kind of getting back to normal." And I was like, well, wait, are they going to get to another case or anything, or they're just going to use this issue to kind of say, hey, everything on core is kind of back to normal, which most of the thing was. And you see, the various group members doing different things and people talking, and you see the layout of, which I thought we had before, the layout of where X Factor stay in now, and all of that kind of good mess.
Call it the Boneyard.
Yeah.
Kind of a tough name for a place where everyone is dwelling, but in any event,
yeah, it seems like kind of ominous, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, that's so a weird name. But yep. in any case, though, we get to the end of the issue, and as Agent 70 said, we get to their X Factor's next mission, which, if like us, and I think we've kind of talked about it, but I still won't go into it. We kind of talked about in passing because of solicits and whatnot. What happens? What's the next case going to be?
Right.
So.
Right. Exactly. So, President Bartlett.
What's next?
What is next indeed? Miles Morales. How about? And
sure.
We'll do maybe one more and then do wrap it.
All right.
Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 21. And you got a creative team for us?
The credits. So this book is written by Saladin Ahmed, with pencils by Marcelo Ferreira, inks by Wayne Foucher, and colors by David Curiel. What'd you think of the issue?
I enjoyed it. So I read this and the last issue back to back.
Mm-hmm. I think it probably would have read better for me if I had done that.
And I think it does service well by doing that. So last issue there was this issue and last year's are pretty much this is definitely the conclusion of that whole ultimatum thing. Last issue was Captain America kind of coming into the fold, and Miles and the Prowler getting away from ultimatum and the goblins, which also seemed kind of familiar in a way to another book from this week, which again I could probably get to, but there was a plot by ultimatum and the Green Goblin to turn folks into goblins using a drug, and that bore out like last issue so the whole bunch of people turned into goblins and went after Miles and the Prowler, who is his Uncle Aaron, and that whole fight carried through that issue into this one, where we see Captain America comes in play a little bit more of a part with the fight, but also a couple of people who technically probably shouldn't be around, but the time frame of this book is should be around, but in a different place. In another book from this week,
I was about to say three of them. Let's including
yeah.
the lead character. The lead character shouldn't be here.
You're right.
On this happens. So.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, given what happens in another book we'll talk about probably briefly in a little bit. But so Bombshell and Starling show up and they add to the battle. And I really enjoyed it because that whole battle thing and everybody kind of coming together as a kind of team, and Captain America just kind of being a team player and this one not taking the lead, and Miles' dad rolling in. Which I thought that part was kind of funny. I can't remember if that was. No, that was this issue, I think, where Ganki and them. I don't know if Ganki knew, but the friends that were with like it was Barbara and them. It was Barbara, Ganki, and Judge, whoever was in Captain America's car. Which from last issue, I did not know Captain America could drive. Meaning a regular. I mean, we know he drives like sky cycles and stuff like that, but seeing him driving a car, even though that was a hovercraft or whatever, but still, it's kind of weird to see because you rarely ever see him actually driving. So that was a weird thing from last issue. That was kind of funny to see. But regardless,
I was about to drive a van for a lot of years. So
yeah, there's that too. Oh, I totally forgot about that.
That was the Grunwald era. So that was a long time ago.
Right. That was when he was doing that.
The Punisher drove a van.
Well, yeah, we remember that one, but yeah, that was that's a kind of an iconic for the Punisher. But
yeah,
Cap,
but like you said, it's not something that we see Cap doing a lot. I know Roddykat was about to get to this, but it's really the one main note that I had, which is a plot point from the Into the Spider-Verse movie is introduced. That's going to lead Miles' story going forward for a little bit.
Yeah. So let's just say there's a familiar note that happens at the end of this issue with a character that was just mentioned at the conclude. Well, to conclude the battle at hand, I guess you could say, which leaves Miles in a place. Excuse me, but yeah, overall, like the issue was pretty good. The fight was, the art was great. The fight was well done. Everybody coming together like they did was pretty good. I think, like I was saying, I think it was either this issue or last issue where some of Miles' friends found out that Miles' dad was a secret agent with S.H.I.E.L.D., which was not a known fact for a lot of people. And I'm kind of wondering, they weren't around. It's like the way the end of this issue is that you find out. I wonder if more people know of his secret identity in a way. The way it kind of played out.
The way it had to play out over the course of the last several issues. Yeah, I mean, we're probably going to see a summary of the number of people that do know, but I think the number has grown substantially. Over the last several issues, I think, or at least in this run of the book, of his title. Right. It expanded beyond Ganki and the roommate.
Right. Wait, so the roommate does know?
Yeah, I thought the roommate knew.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't pick up on that if you did.
The kid with the afro, right?
Right. Judge? Yeah, no, I didn't think he knew. I thought it was just
Ganki.
I'm pretty
sure he's known for a while.
Okay. Yeah. Like maybe I didn't pick up on that early on, so.
Right. I mean, that's what my memory says. I could be mistaken, but it's my understanding, or at least my impression, that he's known for a bit of time. So
right. I feel like Barbara has an idea, but she's that's still not a thing that's played out, because even early on in this volume of the issue, there was some kind of playing around with that.
Right. What I was going to add is, but remember, our sense of time has gone away over the course of the pandemic. So
I mean, that is also true.
It's hard to remember when a lot of these things we learned actually happened. But all right. Anything else on Miles Morales, Spider-Man number 21?
No, that was pretty much it. It was like a little bit of a somber note to end out on this particular arc, but it's a good read though.
I'm gonna add, it's not the exact note from Into the Spider-Verse, but it's a similar note.
It's a story. So, it's a beat that happens in the course of that's a pretty big
it's a
thing.
Point. Yeah, it's a plot point. It's not exactly the same beat, but it's a plot point to lead Miles in a certain direction. So
right.
All right. Let's see what you read. To see.
What's next?
You know what I want to talk about before we go into rapid fire?
Sure.
M.O.D.O.K. Head Games number 1.
Yes. All right. Bet.
So this is a wacky book. It is an actual potential click of the week for me. This book is co-written by Jordan Blum and Patton Oswalt of television and stand-up comedy fame.
Who is also going to be playing M.O.D.O.K. in the animated series that is coming up, which is basically why this book exists.
I was about to say, I believe this is also the same writing team for the animated series as well.
I believe so.
The art is by Scott Hepburn and colors by Carlos Lopez. In broad strokes, Monica Rappaccini, is that her name, Rappaccini?
Yes, that's right.
I didn't want to like call her Frappuccino by accident. And the scientists supreme of AIM are plotting against M.O.D.O.K, possibly hacking into his systems. And it plays out over the course of all sorts of great scenes, just really, really well done scenes, including an homage to Wolverine from the Dark Phoenix saga. Did you see that?
I must have missed that one.
I'll point it out to you while you talk about it, because you know me, I talk broad strokes.
Mm.
M.O.D.O.K goes to a somewhat unexpected source for help at the end of the issue. Your thoughts on the issue while I look this up and see if I can't point that out to you.
So yeah, I also enjoyed this issue. I guess a couple of side notes is that I never cared about M.O.D.O.K's actual name up until, or even thought he even had a name up until Marvel's Avengers, the video game that just came out this past year.
You mean like his human name?
His human name, yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'd heard. I mean, listen, you know me. I obsessively read the old Hot Moo as a kid, so
I mean,
probably
I did too,
read
but
his name.
Right,
Know?
like I did too, but it was like at this draw blank. I was like, no, it's just M.O.D.O.K. It was like I didn't care what he has a human name. Who even cares? But up until it's come out in that, and they even mention it here, I never really thought about it or even cared about his name. But regardless, yeah, the whole thing with the other thing I was gonna say was like at the beginning of the book we get a callback to. Which actually kind of has something to do with who he goes. Technically, has something to do with who he goes to get help from, because and also that this story kind of has a slightly familiar beat with what's a couple of that thing that's been going on in Doctor Doom, at least at the beginning of that book, because M.O.D.O.K's kind of dreaming, and he's a robot, so he doesn't really, or he's a cyborg, so he doesn't dream. So that's part really plays into the fact that what Agent 70 is talking about with the plot against him and whatever Monica Rappaccini did to him to cause this to happen. But he's still him, and you see the whole thing as being, his whole internal monologue as all of this is going on. And they're trying to get rid of them. But at the beginning of the book, we see guardsmen. Which we haven't. I don't know when the last time we've seen guardsmen in the pages of a Marvel book. So if you
an Iron Man book from many moons ago,
exactly. Which again, that also plays into what happens at the beginning of the books, because I think they're trying to rob a Stark Industries train or something like that. And there's a bunch of guardsmen that show up to go against them, but that whole plan goes away. And I was like, dang, I haven't seen guardsmen in a minute. That was an interesting pull, and there's been a year full of them, so it's that one's kind of thing. But regardless, during the whole course of the whole book, just to kind of short stroke it a little bit more, the inner workings of M.O.D.O.K's brain and the things that happened between him and Monica Rappaccini. It was kind of a fun little fight, and you seeing her get the Hulk arm and that kind of good mess, and going into the end of the issue where he goes to seek out help for what's going on in his brain from, as Agent 70 said, the most unlikely source that kind of has something to do with the beginning of the book.
So here's what I was referencing.
Okay.
If this is a good point, and I'm not going to get in trouble because I'm not showing the entire page. I'm just showing a panel with some glare. Right? So you recognize this, right? He gets knocked into the basement, into the armory.
Yes. Oh, right. And then there's a bunch of weapons down. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So he says, you took your best shot. Now it shall be M.O.D.O.K's turn. And, he's been knocked through the several floors into the basement. And I guess you have to be a certain fan to recognize from Uncanny X-Men 132. I know this because I've read this a million times. This is one of the holes in my Uncanny X-Men collection, this John Byrne panel, after Wolverine gets knocked through the floor into the sewer, not through the floors of the Hellfire Club.
Underneath the Hellfire Club, yes. Okay, see, I didn't put that together. Well, good deal.
Yeah, it's a visual cue.
Right.
It's a visual cue. So if it's been well established over the course of our almost 400 episodes, is that I have a visual memory for a lot of these comic book images. So it was nice to see that the artist on M.O.D.O.K, Scott Hepburn, and probably Jordan Blum and Patton Oswalt had something to do with a callback to this particular image.
Yeah, and I guess you could say even the image above that image that you were talking about is also a reference to that, the way it's laid out.
Yes, definitely.
So
definitely.
Yeah, that's okay. Dang, I didn't even pick up on that. That's pretty damn good.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I really enjoyed this book. It's a surprise candidate for Click of the Week for me.
Yeah, I would second that definitely. Even like I said, that whole fight with M.O.D.O.K, and surprisingly enough, you wouldn't think M.O.D.O.K is obviously back in the day M.O.D.O.K was a bigger deal in certain lengths than he has been in say the last decade or two, because he's been mostly played off for jokes a lot of times, but they play him in this more formidable than I expected them to, because honestly, especially with the writing team, I was thinking that they were kind of go a more jokey manner with this. But no,
they definitely kept it kind of light, but at the same time, they made his acronym name. They treated that very lightly, even though we know that he's literally killing people in this issue. So
right. So yeah, it's definitely a good read. I was thoroughly surprised by that, actually. I shouldn't be, but sometimes with these books, with this kind of this kind of thing, you never really know, especially if it's something that's tied to
film or TV.
Film or TV that's coming up. Yeah. So that being the case, unless you got something else.
No. I'm more than ready to spin it up, because we've got a lot of books to go through, and there's actually a lot of news post-Thanksgiving. So
yeah, cool. Hit it.
Spinning it up.
Rapid fire. Visualize a nice little graphic right here at some point of we don't have it. We haven't had one, but still, just visualize that real quick. Anyway. Even if you're in an audio, theater of the mind, folks. All right, rapid fire. You want to go, or you want me to go?
Sure. Because I think we have a lot of books in common, so I will lead. Atlantis Attacks #5 is written by Greg Pak with art by Robert Gill, Ario Enendito, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg. I thought this was an interesting end to the miniseries. I was actually personally disappointed at what happened to Mike Nguyen. The head of the person behind creating Pan. Pan remains as a new place for adventures in Asia that doesn't really exist, much like Madripoor. The book segues directly into the Submariner limited series tied to King in Black.
And this is where I say boo, because I feel like this whole issue was pretty much in service of doing just that. Like, because there was a whole lot of talk about kings and stuff. I was like, all right, we know this is coming up. Is that really what they're doing with this? And I was actually kind of surprised about the Mike Nguyen thing. Like, I'm surprised they actually got rid of him.
Right.
That feels a little cut and dry also on that part, but it is what it is. Who knows? Maybe there's something we missed and there's something else that's probably going to happen, and maybe he'll come back to someplace else. Or maybe he was just in service of just doing this.
Maybe. But he seemed like a really modern villain. And I thought that based on what he was capable of and what he ended up doing to Amadeus,
right,
with just a device that he stuck on his chest, I thought that he might remain as like a potential bad guy, for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be the case. We just don't know.
Right. If they do, like, it's something that either happened that we don't know about or happened somewhere else that, that, or in one of the past issues that will probably come up somewhere else. I kind of doubt it, though, the way this ended up, but who knows? Otherwise,
Right.
that I was kind of like, boo. And I'm like, yeah, it ended it, and it's going into King in Black, and who, all right, cool.
Right, and it's focusing on the original Agents of Atlas as well. So, see, I mean, we'll probably keep up with it through our review copies, but I don't know if I'll be pulling these books at all.
Yeah, basically.
Next up is Champions #3, written by Eve Ewing, with art by Bob Quinn and colors by Federico Blee. So Spidey, Ms. Marvel, and Nova and Ironheart are on the run. Viv Vision gets some life advice from a stranger she helps. The remaining champions are held against their will by Cradle, and they try to bust out to no avail. There apparently might be some form of control being exerted on Bombshell that everyone suspects. At least everyone who's in Cradle custody suspects. Lastly, a formerly time-displaced member of the Champions steps in when all seems lost for those champions on the run. That was a great entrance.
I love that. Yes, that was so good. I was like, oh, I did not expect that to happen, but he was like, bloop, bloop, here you go. Here's this person. Be like, hey, hold up.
It honestly came out of nowhere, and I was honestly very, very surprised.
Yeah. So well done with that, and we will see what happens with that next issue. I really don't have much else to add. I don't think I have anything in my notes that yeah, I don't really have anything else. Go ahead.
All right, next up is Daredevil #25. This is a potential click of the week for me. It's written by Chip Zdarsky, with art by Marco Cicchetto and colors by Marcio Meniz. There's an interesting character turn in the making in this book. It seems that Zdarsky's taking the story in a direction I did not expect at all once Daredevil's conflict with the law is seemingly resolved. So, over the course of 25 issues, I did not expect to see this happening. Zdarsky's been on a pretty effective run over these 25 issues. I did not expect to see this character turn at all. So, I give him credit for that, but I'm hesitant to see how long this lasts. So you'll probably see some news stories about this issue selling out at comic book stores, but who knows? And that's a part of the mini speculator boom that we're experiencing right now. But at the end of the day, we will see how we'll just have to wait and see how long this particular character turn or twist lasts. Next up is King in Black #1. This is actually the big event that's kicking off this week. It's written by Donny Cates with pencils by Ryan Stegman, whose name I can type correctly in our show notes. His name is not Rhina, it's Ryan. With inks by J.P. Mayer and colors by Frank Martin. Well, this issue definitely establishes that Null is a force to be reckoned with. Cates does a good job of establishing some of the things readers would be asking, except for what Captain Marvel's actually doing. Cates and Stegman definitely established some wow factor by showing just what this heretofore unknown elder god is capable of. So I give them credit for that. I know that neither Roddykat nor myself were all that interested in following the events of the Venom book, but this is an event that's stretching across the entirety of the Marvel universe. So I'll be, I will at least be monitoring the main limited series through our review copies. So stay tuned for what happens next in that book.
And you will hear me grouse about the fact that some of my favorite books are being interrupted because of this stupid event. Actually, it's probably not a stupid event. It might actually be pretty good, but it doesn't seem like going into it might be my cup of tea. I'll just put it that way.
Right. Next up is Thor #10. This is another potential click of the week for me. This is awesome. Written by Donny Cates, art by Nick Klein, and colors by Matt Wilson. Donald Blake, with the powers of the mighty Thor, essentially. He absorbs power wherever he goes. You will be shocked, Roddykat. You will be shocked to see what happens in this issue. It is astounding. And he's also using a scalpel with literal surgical precision. I can't describe what happens in this issue without spoiling it. And just it's on the graphic side. Honestly, this is 10 issues in. I think you have time to at least catch up on the last several issues that involve Donald Blake. So that you understand how we are where we are. That explain where Donald Blake has been all this time. And you can jump on there so that you can really get the full breadth of this story. So I'm recommending this book to Roddykat right now.
Does Led Zeppelin or whoever happen to be played while Donald Blake is doing this thing?
No. It's trust me. When you see when you see how it's depicted, you'll understand why I'm just kind of like, I'm a little shook. Not exactly a halfway crook at this point, but definitely shook.
Nice. Okay.
Next up is Batman number 104. It's written by James Tynion IV with art by Ryan Benjamin, Danny Mickey Bengal, and Galen March, with colors by David Barron. Batman, Clown Hunter, and Harley Quinn are held by the Ghostmaker. Nightwing relays the one time he and Batman encountered the Ghostmaker earlier in their careers. It's actually a pretty entertaining story, and it leaves us on a pretty interesting cliffhanger. It's definitely drama. It's definitely artificial drama that's created by the Ghostmaker. For this particular sequence, but it at the end of the day, it was pretty dramatic and pretty entertaining. So, not all that whatchamacallit. It's not all that surprising that that they're able to pull this off, given the character's history, and connections of Batman. Not a potential click of the week is Batman Catwoman number 1, written by Tom King with art by Clay Mann and colors by Tomo Mori. This is a Black Label book. We're following up on Tom King's Batman Catwoman story from the main Batman title. We seem to be following separate timelines, but without the aid of knowing what timeline we're following. One of the reasons why that Jason Aaron's Thor, God of Thunder worked so well was that we knew exactly which version of Thor we were following. At some point, I expect these stories to connect here in the Batman Catwoman book. Believe it or not, we also get Andrea Beaumont, the Phantasm, from Batman the Animated Series, or Batman, one of the Batman animated movies.
Actually, well, that was one of the first ones. Yeah.
Mask of the Phantasm.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it for me.
Interesting. Yeah, so for people that don't remember, that the Tom King's run of Batman got let's say interrupted by irate stupid ass fans who didn't like the whole relationship thing, and so they split off the book into this, and and they went with that's what Tynion's writing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, what Tynion's writing right now. So, because I think Tom King had this whole big ass arc, and that had to do with the relationship and all kinds of good bits. And yeah, it is what it is. So I guess. So we get to my books, and we go with Savage Avengers number 15, which I mentioned earlier, because, like I said, there was a similar plot to what was going on in Miles' book that kind of goes on here. And I'm going to say, I see that the Punisher did get recruited. After all, half of the crew goes to liberate a drug lord's house that was taken over by one of Kulan Greth's priests. This also had to do with folks getting turned into monsters, Cthulhu-esque monsters, by way of drugs, which was part of Kulan Greth's master plan. But I'm guessing these cultists don't count as humans for Wolverine, as the crew kind of goes and pretty much kills everybody or a lot of people to get to the priest. And they deal with this person in not the way you would think, but it was, I guess if it had played out on a screen somewhere, would be kind of gruesome, let's just say. Meanwhile,
I flipped through this book.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely dug how Patrick Zurcher, the artist, portrayed the ploy that the Savage Event, that one half of the Savage Avengers team uses to break into the drug lord's house.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny.
Yeah,
I was just really, and then whatchamacallit, because these guys are human. They haven't been transformed, so they are susceptible.
Right,
and,
most of the acolytes, right? Yeah.
So I got a kick out of that, and of course, it wasn't even necessary. I just sort of laughed.
Yes, that part was pretty good. It was like, one member of the team using her assets that and that another teammate just didn't necessarily need to
right, and
do
that
what they
teammate
need to
takes
do.
a shot, and that teammate takes a shot at another former colleague of both of theirs.
Yes. Yeah, I did notice that. I was like, oh man, that was kind of fun though. But yeah, I enjoyed this issue. But at the outset of this, we see, which is also kind of funny because you see, Wolverine is in here, and do a lot of his battles end up with him losing a lot of his clothes. So, but he ends up with a new set of clothes that I guess kind of fitting for him, but not really. So I'm really going to be interested in what the rest of the team's going to say about that when they all get back together again. But meanwhile, speaking of the other crew that was fighting the dragon seems not to be going as well as it had started from last issue. So, and I guess we'll catch up with that in the next issue. And I guess maybe this book is going to 17 because like I said, we figured like we had some idea that this book was ending. But we weren't quite sure when, but stay tuned for how that goes. Anyway, next up, let's see what we got. Fantastic Four Road Trip #1. So this is a one-shot. Reed takes the family, minus Sky, because I'm not entirely sure when this is fully set. Well, I guess we kind of do know when it's set because there are some references to something. But anyway, Reed takes the family, minus Sky, to the Grand Canyon. But of course, he's there to check out some spores from a cosmic meteorite, which happened to be from the aforementioned place from a person's come from. And of course, it goes sideways like you would expect. And they all start tripping, and things happen. And we find out who is behind the thing. And it turns out this person is pretty much uses Reed's curiosity to try to get the better of the whole family. And the only other thing to say is like the art kind of fits the trippiness of this one and done adventure. This one, I know this was in the solicitors or whatever that said something about a lot of body horror, and some of that does definitely play in this issue, especially in the resolution of what's going on with the team. So if you're a little, I would say if you're, it's kind of weird. That's all I'm gonna say. So it's very weird. So if that is the thing that kind of makes you go a little yeesh, then maybe not. But you can see from, I guess, if the cover doesn't mesh with you a good bit, you'll probably be fine. Let's see. That one. Last but not least, Far Sector #9. So Joe tries some holographic food while inquiring about City Enduring's dark web and its connection to the switch-off drug. She goes to check out another lead that a counselor told her about. And there's a Star Wars looking speeder that shows up in here, which has an amusing movement on. But she ends up infiltrating a hidden psych ward type facility that's a meme factory generator at the end of this book. So because she's pretty much trying to find out, what's going on in the underbelly of this place where she's found herself this whole series, especially after someone got murdered and there was some leftover strings to attach to it, which is why she was doing all of this. This continues to be a good book. The art's great on this one. It's I've been enjoying it, so it's definitely worth it checking out. I don't know if Joe is ever going. So Joe is a Green Lantern, if y'all did not know, and she's like off in some well in the deep reaches of space. So this has nothing to do with Earth. And I don't know if they're ever going to incorporate her into, with the rest of the DC heroes or not. But so far, it's good by itself. That's all I can say. And that is it for me. Now we can go to Clicks of the Week.
Clicks of the Week.
And we got a couple already from our absent partners in crime here. The first one is Dirts with Batman 104. He says that retconning in a new training partner from Bruce's past is dumb, but the story is actually pretty good.
It's a weird character, but as Dirt said, the way Tinian is inserting him and using him to reflect Batman and to reflect Bruce is interesting, especially the quandary that Batman is left in at the end of this issue.
Is this a character that we kind of know of?
No, it's a new creation.
Oh, okay.
The Ghost.
Okay.
The Ghost.
Gotcha. And Tim says that he's going with King of Black #1.
Interesting. Well, it is there's a lot to take in that issue, and I did have some nice things to say about it. I'll tell you that my potential clicks of the week are numerous. There are actually a pretty good number of books out this week. I can tell you that Black Widow #4 is a strong candidate. Daredevil #25 is a strong candidate. So
M.O.D.O.K.
So is Thor #10 and M.O.D.O.K Head Games #1. So I have got my hands full. Do you have a pick while I consider my options?
I can't say that I have as many as you do, but definitely a couple of them that you mentioned is in the running. And you know what? I think I'm gonna go with Black Widow.
Okay.
Yeah, because that, like I said, that was the one that was like, oh, dang, I did not expect that to happen. Even despite the familiarity of the story beat, some of the story beats have been, but
right.
Yeah, right. There you go.
I'm going to go with Thor #10 because the saga of the reinvention of Dr. Donald Blake is gripping. But I want to give shout outs to the other three that I had, specifically Black Widow #4 that Roddykat picked, Daredevil #25, and M.O.D.O.K Head Games #1. Shout out to Jordan Blum and Patton Oswalt, and art by Scott Hepburn. Solid, forget beyond solid work, because I was very much enjoying myself reading that book.
Yeah, probably the total ones for me were definitely those two. Was the M.O.D.O.K Savage Avengers, and of course Black Widow, which what I went with definitely. The Miles Morales one actually is kind of one too, but it's just despite the somber note it went out on. So that being said, folks, we're going to go into the news section, but first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torrontés, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through CSPN. Do it today. Now we go into the news.
And we start off with the news, with the cinematic news, like we do every day about this time as us transition over. Again, picture another nice little transition right there, like, wow. DuckTales introduces Scrooge McDuck's sister in new clip. So Disney XD shared a sneak peek of DuckTales' newest episode, which is probably already aired at this point, by this time, I guess, featuring a character never before seen in the reboot or the original series, Matilda McDuck. And if you're watching the video, I would imagine you can see the picture of her right there, unless it's Della and, I don't know. No, that's her. Okay. Let's see. The clip shows Scrooge, Dewey, and Webby visiting his sister Matilda in order to discover what happened to Scrooge's childhood pet, quote unquote, a clump of hair named Whiskers. So, you can go check that out for yourself. Next up.
Okay, next up, Empire's January issue gives WandaVision stars a 70s-inspired makeover. Recently, Empire released its standard and subscriber covers, spotlighting Paul Bettany's Vision and Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch in a groovy way, as seen on its website. The standard cover features Vision sporting sideburns and shaggy hair, while Wanda wears a multicolored flowy blouse. The image is seen as blurring in and out of reality, inspired by the series' initial poster debut. The subscriber cover features Vision's head slowly unraveling as Wanda uses her powers. Given that the series has hinted at Wanda's power spiraling out of control, this cover leaves viewers with a foreboding vibe. Okay.
So, sounds like there could be some quote-unquote visions of that Vision miniseries from a couple of years back that Tom King did, possibly. Well, not necessarily. It's not the same thing, but,
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm pretty sure it's going to draw on a number of sources, it might touch on the original Vision and Scarlet Witch limited series.
Yes. Which is on Marvel Unlimited right now.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, again, we're not getting anything from them, so we're just saying it's a good service. From the Hawkeye corner of the universe, Hailee Steinfeld's Kate Bishop and Pizza Dog debut in leaked set video. Not photo. So apparently somebody took some video while they were, some undercover video while they were filming on the set, which is in New York City. So I'm sure, Agent 70 doesn't necessarily have to say whether it's him or not, but that's fine.
That's funny.
We understand it could be. Gotta keep things hush hush. A leaked video from the set of Marvel Studios and Disney Plus' upcoming Hawkeye series features the first look at Hailee Steinfeld's Kate Bishop and Lucky the Pizza Dog. This is cool. There's also some pictures floating around out there on the social medias. The video was taken from an NYC subway and sees Bishop and Lucky descending a flight of stairs alongside Jeremy Renner's Clint Barton as a train approaches. So, yeah, of course, there's been the rumors of Hailee Steinfeld, playing Kate Bishop, and yeah, this seems to be a little bit more confirmation of this.
I think it's pretty good confirmation.
I would say so.
Did you take a look at the photos or the video?
I didn't take a look at the videos, but I just saw the photos out there on Twitter a little bit ago.
Right, I did see the photos. They look pretty good. We were joking about it just before the show, so they are definitely trying to stay in the spirit of the comic book costumes.
Yeah, which is cool. And if you haven't read that Hawkeye series from, 2012, that Fraction and Aha did, you should.
Is it that long ago?
I think so. hold on. Actually, let me check. Real quick, I can check. Okay. Fraction.
Really? 2014, maybe.
24. Maybe that sounds right.
2014.
Says, wait, that's the omnibus. No, 2012. Yeah, 2012 to 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it might have started late 2012, but you know.
Well, so I do remember that the last issue, I remember they had problems getting the last issue out, and that one took way longer, and almost a Watchmen situation, but it didn't take nearly as long.
I was about to say, if I recall correctly, they switched artists towards the end. So
no, Aha was on the book.
Was he?
Yeah.
What am I remembering? It might be a different Hawkeye. No.
I mean, there's been a couple of artists who did a couple of issues of the book early. I mean, during the course of the run, but not near the end. No, Aha was on the book the whole time, or for the majority of the time, I should say.
Right, from beginning to end with fill-ins. I gotcha.
Right. So no, I think what ended up happening might have had to do with Fraction. If I'm not remember, I don't remember what happened, but all I know is that they were, there was an issue in the, no pun intended, that in that last issue. It took a while for them to get that last issue out, and I still haven't read that last issue because I didn't want that series to end.
That's funny.
Yeah, that is the thing you'll find out about me. Anyway, moving right along.
Oh, see, that's what I remember. I remember whatchamacallit. I remember Annie Wu being part of the creative team on this too. So that's what made me. I couldn't remember if it had something to do with who was contributing to the delays. And yeah, Fraction did have Annie Wu as a co-writer on this.
Right,
at the
and
end.
I think that a lot of that stuff was early on too.
But anyway,
mm-hmm.
What do you mean her calendar? No, I'm talking about this is like towards the end.
Right.
But let's see here. Next up is Disney Plus's Hawkeye casts a Marvel villain and 2 new Avengers. This is an article written by our very own @TimDog98 on Comic Book Resources. The Hawkeye Disney Plus series starring Jeremy Renner and Hailee Steinfeld has cast the Marvel heroes Echo and Swordsman, along with a Black Widow star. Jeremy Renner and Hailee Steinfeld's Hawkeye Marvel Cinematic Universe series has announced the addition of new cast members, including Vera Farmiga, Florence Pugh, Fra Fee, Tony Dalton, Alaqua Cox, and Zahn McClarnon. Farmiga will play Eleanor Bishop, the mother of Steinfeld's Kate Bishop. Fee plays a character named Kazi, who is possibly the Marvel villain named Kazimierczak, aka Clown. Aren't you glad I got that name?
Indeed.
And I got it. I'm pretty sure I got it pretty close on the first try. Dalton portrays Jack Duquesne, the Avenger known as Swordsman. It's really Jacques Duquesne.
Yeah.
The mentor to Hawkeye in the comics. Pugh will reprise her Black Widow role of Yelena Belova, the sister to Scarlett Johansson's titular character. Cox plays Maya Lopez, a.k.a. the Marvel hero Echo, who is a deaf Native American who can copy another fighter's movements. And McClarnon is William Lopez, who is most likely Echo's father, Willie Crazy Horse Lincoln. Wow. Shout out to TimDog98 for getting this story out to us.
So this basically said that the kind of falls into the fact, and again, if you have not read Fraction or Aha's run of Hawkeye, and you're interested in the show, you might too, because that sounds like, especially with the clown showing up, because the clown was also from that series.
Yeah.
And also, I'm kind of wondering if the Tracksuit Mafia is going to show up.
Yeah, that's probably a bet. It's probably a good bet.
And especially, I mean, they got Kate, they got Pizza Dogs, which is definitely another who came out of that series. Clowns in here. Now, granted, Echo hadn't. I don't remember if Echo had anything to do with that series or not. But we knew Echo was going to be coming along at some point because we had already had stories of them looking for someone to play Echo. Swordsman didn't play that big of a... Actually, I wonder if they got a Barney, because I think Barney showed up also, his Clint's brother.
Barney was in the series, not Swordsman, but Swordsman, obviously, they're going to probably meld several stories into the series. So.
Like maybe do some backstory and put kind of fold that in there. Maybe, who knows? Yeah.
Yep, sounds right.
Yeah, but that sounds cool.
I was going to say, bear in mind that we really haven't gotten a lot of backstory on Hawkeye in the movies, other than the fact that he was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and he had a family that we all up to this point had no idea he had. So
right, in the MCU version anyway. Yeah, so yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm a little bit more excited about this show than I was actually.
No.
So next up though, Agent Carter trailer teases 2-hour movie fan version of the TV show. So basically, a fan recut the whole of Agent Carter's 2 seasons, I guess it was, into a 2-hour film and put the trailer out online. So if folks want to check that out, they can do that probably on YouTube somewhere. I have not seen it, and apparently the teaser trailer here is like 12 minutes, so you can check that out in the article in the show notes. You know, if that is something of interest. I know Agent Carter fans, have probably flocked to it by now. So, and I doubt we're going to actually ever get any more Agent Carter the way things are going, although there's been rumors of things.
Okay.
Next up.
All right. Okay. So I was just following up on this news story. Marvel producer Jeffrey Colo posted a cryptic tweet earlier this week that caught the eyes of diehard Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, igniting excitement and trepidation. Colo playfully alerted fans, aka agents, that a future S.H.I.E.L.D. project is on its way and will debut on November 30th on Twitter. Its context, form, time, and location were entirely secret. So on November 30th, what dropped was the crew from Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Shot a short film benefiting MPTF. This is a charity that helps Hollywood take care of its own. It serves the Southern California entertainment community, and it's a hashtag Fund the Bat at charity.gofundme.com/Fund the Bat. So yeah, they shot a promo video for this charity, and you can find it on Clark Gregg's Twitter feed.
Right, which I have linked to in the show notes. So yeah, you can check that out. I hadn't checked that out, but yeah, seems cool. It's kind of funny though. I was like, well, wait, because people were thinking like, well, it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast and crew. Like, okay, are they going to possibly be something that has to do with the end of the show or something like that? And like, no, it's totally something different. They went Batman on there, so apparently, or something. Like I don't know what the whole of the short film is, but yeah, there you go. It's out there. Next up, though, Awkwafina's Shang-Chi character could connect a dangerous X-Men enemy. So Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings will introduce Simu Liu's Shang-Chi to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, along with a whole host of new characters. Rumored to be joining the cast is Awkwafina as Fa Lo Sui. I apologize. I don't know how to. That's yeah. Daughter of the villainous Zhang Zhu, more commonly known as the alias Fu Manchu, and half sister to Shang-Chi, which, going by the recent comic book, is a little, let's say, beefier than Awkwafina is normally. if it is that same character,
Mr. Jagger.
Huh?
But this is supposed to be another character.
Right. Okay. But however, while her ties to the hero Shang-Chi are clear, Zhang Bao Yu is more of a villain, anti-hero herself. Should she appear in the film, it could mean a dangerous alien species, the Brood, would accompany her, providing Shang-Chi with a world of hurt. So, and then it goes on to talk about her role in the comics.
Right. And the dangerous X-Men enemy is the Brood. I'm like, when did this happen?
Right? that was
the Brood? Like like seriously? Like the Brood are dangerous, man. So
yeah, but apparently, this article kind of goes on to it looks like it has something to do with the Fearless Defenders, which means I should have read that.
I mean, that explains why I missed it, but
yeah. But this article goes on to show the comic book connection to the character if should this be the person that Awkwafina is playing and shows up as. Next up.
That's so funny.
I know, right?
All right. Shout out to The Mandalorian. We talked about it on last week's show, so we're not covering too much this week. Fans may have been grossed out by Costco Reeves' meal in Chapter 11 of The Mandalorian, but rest assured, she didn't actually eat an octopus. Mercedes Vamato, a.k.a. Sasha Banks, the actor that plays Reeves in The Mandalorian, revealed that she wasn't slurping a live marine animal, but rather a long udon noodle that was made to create the same effect. Oh, God.
I mean, nothing wrong with calamari, though. So that's all I'm saying about that. Now, granted, the Star Wars version of that probably a little bit, as we've seen.
Funny.
Yeah. But that's something. And yeah, we're going to get into the Mandalorian. We're definitely getting into the Mandalorian block. Like Agent 70 said, we did talk about a lot of it. But we will be talking about some stuff that, bringing up some stuff that happened in the last couple of episodes, such as the Mandalorian's Carl Weathers. Well, this is not it, but the Mandalorian's Carl Weathers asked for more Baby Yoda in his episode. More Baby Yoda, or the child, or as we've come to find out his name, spoiler alert, Grogu, as we come to find out from the last episode.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're far enough away from it now that if you didn't watch it already, shame on you.
Yeah, but there's probably some people, but But anyway, is a common. So more Baby Yoda is a common request among fans of the Disney Plus Star Wars series, The Mandalorian. However, it was apparently also the request of Carl Weathers, who plays Grief Karga and directed Chapter 12, The Siege. Quote unquote, I know what the show is about. It's called The Mandalorian, so that sort of takes care of that. Weathers told Empire, but his sidekick, his ward, his little being that accompanies him on this journey, has this sweetness. There's obviously a childlike quality that we love in little ones before they can say no. Also, a very good marketing strategy for the series because, we know how people take to cute things like that. Anyway, that's just me, editorializing right there, not what Carl Weathers said on that last part. Anyway, let's see. Before they say and throw things and have tantrums. When I read the script, one of my comments was to ask Jon Favreau to put more baby in it. I know, right? The journey that we're on is fraught with danger and is very action oriented, and there's a lot of weapons firing bad guys. So yeah, basically he wanted. He's basically saying that the Baby Yoda just kind of offset all the action and whatnot going on during the course of the show and the series. So, and he says he's a fan of the kid. A real fan. I'd love to see more of him, according to Carl Weathers. A lot of people was surprised to know that Carl Weathers not only directed, but has been directing for a good long time when this episode came out. So it was kind of funny to see that on social media. Anyway, next up.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, how many TV directors or movie directors do you really know unless they're like, explicitly marketed that way?
Right.
The only reason why I mentioned that is because I'm a big fan of The West Wing, and every once in a while I'll see the name of the actress whose name escapes me right now, but the actress who played Dr. Carrie Weaver on ER. Mm-hmm. She directed several episodes of ER, and then I started to see her name pop up on The West Wing.
Oh, nice.
I was like, wait a second, what is she doing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's pretty cool that there's a little crossover there. But obviously, it's also they're both John Wells shows. So, but anyway.
Yeah. But in this case, it's like, well, Carl Weathers. You know him, Action Jackson. You know him from Apollo Creed. You know him as that. You don't necessarily. I mean, hell, people when Stone started directing, he got some of the same. People are like, what? Granted,
I was about to say
there's a
he's
reason for that, but
he's oh God, what was his name in whatchamacallit in Happy Gilmore?
who? Carl Weathers?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was in Carl. Well, this Adam Sandler. We don't talk about that. But
I forgot. But no, but his character is memorable.
Yeah.
Chubbs.
Yeah.
Chubbs. All right. Speaking of Carl Weathers, he shed light on Chapter 12's big reveal. This is related to the discovery of Moff Gideon's secret base and insight into his grand scheme for the galaxy. And we learn that the child has a much larger role to play in Gideon's plans than previously thought. In an interview, Carl Weathers led us into it, but he also said that without divulging too much information, when you listen to the dialogue, it's pretty much explained without saying everything, without explaining to us what it all means. So he basically says that there's more to it than we've been introduced to so far. So.
Right. Yeah, we'll get on to that in a little bit. I almost went back and watched this particular episode, but I did go back and watch the next one we're about to talk about in a minute or two, which was the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because when I saw this article and read this, I was like, maybe if I go back and check that out, because sometimes in hindsight, it's like you catch things that you don't really catch the first time. Anyway, Disney digitally removes the Mandalorian's accidental crew member cameo. In line with bad things happening in 2020, Disney has digitally... I don't know if this is a bad thing. This is an article editorializing that part, but Disney has digitally removed a lone crew member who, accidentally appeared in the background of a recent Mandalorian episode. The crew member, who the internet lovingly dubbed Jeans Guy, appeared at the 1854 mark in Season 2, Episode 4, which was Carl Weathers' episode that he directed. Back flats against the wall, the crew member was not in the shot for very long, but they made an impact on Star Wars fans everywhere. Speaking of things, this is kind of going into speaking of things that you missed on, because I didn't pick up on this one. So what?
I said I missed it totally.
Yeah. So people even made mock designs for action figures based on the crew member.
I did see that.
You can't buy that kind of love. The Verges reached out to Disney about the digital erasure. And then they go into saying, basically goes into talk about digital editing and the worries about it. And, it even make a call back to the movie Splash from 1980s. So, or apparently that I guess they did this to Splash on Disney Plus by covering up her butt. So, yeah. I mean, it's Disney. What were you expecting? So anyway, so that's the thing that happened, and I totally missed out on Jeans Guy. So salute, Guy, you were there, and now you're not. Next up,
hold on. So this is a story about Rosario Dawson putting a comment following Ahsoka Tano's debut on a video trailer for episode 13. So, to celebrate the premiere of the latest episode, The Jedi, Dawson commented on a trailer for the episode in true Star Wars fashion, writing, "May the Force be with you." I don't know if Roddykat put into the show notes.
Yes, it's in the clickbait section.
Article.
Yeah, it's in the clickbait section. I was going to mention that.
I was just gonna say that there is a pretty in-depth article on Vanity Fair, published by Vanity Fair. So you could hop on over to our clickbait section and take a look at that article. It has a lot of stuff from Rosario Dawson about finally bringing Ahsoka Tano to screen in live action. And Dave Filoni is also a big part of this interview as well. So it's a pretty good in-depth article, so definitely recommend reading it.
Indeed, indeed. And I think we might get a nugget or two possibly from that in one of the articles coming up. But next up, original Ahsoka Tano's actor celebrates character's live action debut. Original Ahsoka Tano voice actress Ashley Eckstein, y'all know who that is, celebrated the character's live action debut in The Mandalorian with a post on her Instagram. Eckstein has voiced the character in various Star Wars properties since 2008, including Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars animated series. Yeah, we talk about how the character was first received and all that kind of good mess. And of course, the rumors that about Rosario Dawson taking the live action version of the role. Eckstein took to Instagram to express her delight with the character's debut on The Mandalorian. She addressed both the longtime fans who have followed the character since the beginning and the millions of new ones who are meeting Ahsoka for the first time. Eckstein also wrote about Ahsoka's evolution as a character and how she became a beacon of light in the Star Wars universe. Ahsoka Tano was, until Rey's debut, one of the only female Jedi in the series whose journey was prominently featured in the franchise. And of course, you can check out the post, the fairly lengthy post on her Instagram in the article and show notes. And this is the point where I say that I did a little bit more of my Star Wars Clone Wars rewatch, and I got to the point where at the end of season 5, where Ahsoka ends up leaving the Jedi Order. So if you've been paying attention to my Twitter, that's pretty much what you saw from me the bulk of yesterday morning.
Yeah, I was about to say, forgive me, I'm not on Twitter that much, so I'm sorry to have missed out on that because I would have replied, "It's about time."
So so now which basically puts me squarely into season 6 and rounding out my rewatch because season 7 I haven't seen yet. And season 6 is only 13 episodes, so at some point I get that. And of course, it was also the point where that one moment that I've expressed earlier that I didn't like, that I hated getting to, because actually I didn't realize, I forgot they were back to back, because first it was the whole thing with Mandalore and Satine, Duchess Satine dying, and then right after that was Ahsoka getting framed for the murder and leaving the Jedi Order, or ending up
Right.
with her leaving the Order after all that thing was her turning into the future and all that stuff. So, like, I didn't remember that was back to back. So I was like, well, damn, it just hit me 2 times in the span of like 4 or 5 episodes, or 4 episodes. So crazy. Anyway, next up.
Alrighty, just need a moment. Let's see here. What are we on? Mandalorian's character?
Yes.
Mandalorian's character designer explains Ahsoka's shorter Montral's Leku. Following the live-action debut of Ahsoka, Lucasfilm character concept designer Brian Matthias elaborated upon why Ahsoka's head, tails, or Leku were shortened in size compared to her animated appearances. Asked by a fan on Twitter why the design was changed, stating some confusion among fans, as her Leku were much bigger when the character appeared in Rebels around the same time period. From animation to live action, he did a ton of design exploration for her and their appropriate size for the actor with consideration for stunts and movement. Matthias explained. I'm sure he'll get to discuss at greater length in the near future. I thought that was a practical application or consideration that they had to make.
Yeah, so did I. Like, I didn't think that much of it. It's like, yeah, of course, you got an actor, a live action versus animated, where you can, do a little bit more with animation than you can with practical effects and animation. So, like, I didn't really think that much of it as well. So, I did go back and watch this episode, and because as I initially recalled, the stance she was using to fight with was not the stance we knew that we knew her from the animated series, but we also know that she kind of grew to learn different stances during the course of the series anyway, so that part didn't matter. But obviously, she did end up during the last course of the fight go into the stance that we know her from, the little offbeat stance of, I guess that's Form 5. I don't know what it is. Somebody, I'm sure, they did name it as a form at some point. That she's more famously known for in the animated series. So it was all cool. And actually, I think going to that, the next one actually goes something that we didn't get to talk about, that we didn't bring up last episode, that sparked a couple of articles, in that a killer class of droid returned in The Mandalorian. So yeah, we talked about the episode with the Ahsoka and that flight, and the part of the crew that the magistrate, aka Morgan Elsbeth, ends up employing, also employs 2 HK series droids, which, if you know anything from if you played Knights of the Old Republic or played the Old Republic MMO, you know that the HK series of droids was a fixture of those series. And there's, like I said, they have 2 HK droids in here, which, as far as we knew, weren't around in the Star Wars universe, or at least not many of them were still being employed in the Star Wars universe, away from the Old Republic era of Star Wars. But apparently there's a couple still around, or were still around as of this episode. And this first article kind of talks about the fact that it is. And there's also another article about, I think I did put in the clickbait section, where is this episode also gives way to the fact that another video game, Star Wars video game protagonist could possibly be still around, in that of Karkaturn. Partially based on probably this, the HK's the series being around, but that's a whole different series, because that's like the Dark Forces series, and this is Old Republic. So, and I can't remember if there were any HKs in. Actually, there might have been an HK series that was in the Dark Forces series, but I don't remember. Regardless, video game stuff, Star Wars. Some of the stuff kind of coming back into EA. I mean, to the EU, or it's into canon from the EU, which some of that stuff necessarily was not. But regardless, there you go. Next up.
Speaking of that Vanity Fair article I was referencing, that's in our clickbait section, Dave Filoni played coy at the very end of that article on where this episode, where Ahsoka makes her live action debut, where that fits into the Star Wars timeline, because, when you look at the epilogue of Rebels, which Roddykat, I believe, did see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, you don't really know how much time has passed. So it's possible that the story told in The Mandalorian actually takes place prior to that. He says it's possible. He's saying it's possible. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So... he's definitely playing coy with that, but that was a nice little stinger at the end of that interview.
Right. Well, and I did read this, and I was like, well, we do kind of know. We don't necessarily know as far as Star Wars timeline, but we do know some time has passed, because at the spoiler alerts for the end of Star Wars Rebels, which again at this point is old enough to, if you haven't seen it by now, I don't know what to tell you. Ezra and Thrawn, which it also makes sense with this episode, because during the course of this Mandalorian episode, Ahsoka's looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn, which would line up with the fact that Ahsoka and Sabine were looking for Ezra and Thrawn, who pretty much were together at the end of the series, thanks to some hyperspace animals whisking them away.
The Purrgil. I can't believe I remember that name.
Mm-hmm. So it could make and we do know at the end of when we found out that happens, it has been a few years.
Right.
At the end of that episode, in the course of that episode.
Yeah, I was about to say it's been long enough for Jason Syndulla to be able to sit up and be able to sit in one of the chairs in the Ghost. So
exactly.
Roddykat is on point with that assessment. So we will see. But it was funny to see Filoni play coy at the end of that interview. Like I said, that was a really well done interview with the interviewer Anthony Bresnikan. He was on point with a lot of his questions.
Right. So technically, basically, that Mandalorian episode could possibly take place in the midst of in the time frame of that last episode of Rebels, which I thought was like, okay. I mean, not okay. It was in like, yeah, but okay. It was like, oh shoot, because I was actually kind of wondering, like, why is she looking for Thrawn until we thought about that point? Like, Thrawn had been dealt with if this was after that point. But we also know that, oh yeah, right, I forgot they were still looking for Ezra, and what better way to try to find Ezra is than look for Thrawn. So yeah, there's the thing. I like it. It's cool. Which maybe that'll open it up to way, because I know that even at the end of Rebels that there was the hint of maybe there could be another season come up at some point along the line, a la the way the season 7 happened for Clone Wars, but nothing's really been fleshed out on that.
Right.
So we don't know. Anyway, next up.
This is you.
David Prowse, the physical actor behind Darth Vader, has died at 85. Actor David Prowse, known for his being the physical actor, like I said, behind Darth Vader in the original Star Wars film trilogy, has passed away. He was 85 years old. His passing was confirmed on Twitter by talent agency Boeington Management. It is with great regret and heart-wrenching sadness for us and millions of fans around the world to announce that our client, David Prowse, MBE, has passed away at 85. And then this article kind of goes into, a little bit of history. He was in Clockwork Orange. He was in Casino Royale, James Bond film, and a whole lot of other stuff. Apparently something I found out about, which I don't know if I knew this or not, but David Prowse, who played, who's basically the person you saw on the screen, also did the lines for Darth Vader before they were being dubbed over by James Earl Jones, and apparently he didn't find out about that until the movie premiered. So that's one thing. And I will also take this moment to say that, hey, James Earl Jones is still around. Give that man his flowers while he's still here. Period. Next up. Oh, condolences to Prowse's family and friends and all that. What's that?
I said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. Star Trek Picard star I almost read this as Eva Longoria.
I did too.
Eva Longoria has confirmed that the second season of the sci-fi series will begin production in January 2021. The show on CBS All Access is a spin-off continuation of the wildly popular series Star Trek The Next Generation, which ran from 87 to 94. Okay.
And if you don't know, that's Romulan Legolas.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Evagora is Romulan Legolas. That's funny.
Yeah. That's that dude. Because if you go back to our episode, our Treasury Edition on Star Trek Picard, that's what we dubbed him.
That's so funny.
Sounds like Picard season 2 is going to start up. Cool. Star Trek Discovery gives touching tribute to Anton Yelchin. So apparently, spoiler alert for the last episode of Star Trek Discovery, the last episode that came out. Wow. And it's even called Unification 3, which is a callback to Star Trek TNG episodes, Unifications Part 1 and 2, I guess. So Star Trek Discovery honored Anton Yelchin by naming a starship the USS Yelchin after the late actor who tragically died in 2016. The flagship CBS All Access series has been creatively rejuvenated by changing its setting to the 32nd century, which has allowed Star Trek Discovery to create a new canon in the far future. This has also enabled the show to incorporate the legacy of the entire Star Trek franchise, and that fittingly now includes tactically acknowledging the Kelvin timeline of the J.J. Abrams Star Wars movies. So yeah, and of course, if folks did not know, Anton Yelchin was the one who played Chekhov in the Abrams movies. So,
right, he died in a really awful accident.
Right. Yeah, and people were people went bonkers when they heard that. I'm like, I barely know who that dude was, but apparently, people cape for good-looking white boys. Anyway, next up.
Okay. He did do
Sorry.
other work.
He
but,
did do other work, yeah, because there was a couple of notes of other movies that people low-key knew him for, but largely a lot of people knew him for that.
Okay. So next up in news, ahead of its season 5 premiere, The Expanse has posted its own take on the classic Yule log video. The Proto-Mole Yule log video was posted on Amazon Prime Video's YouTube channel. It lasts for an hour, featuring a video screen with a crackling fire. The Proto-Mole is a reference to the extraterrestrial material discovered on Saturn's moon of Phoebe, Smelly Cat. It played a major role in the first 3 seasons of The Expanse, as it can infect human beings, and was being developed as a weapon by businessmen Jules Pierre Mao in season 1. What are they feeding you? Okay.
Well, humans in this thing, because I do remember that. Expanse is good, y'all. I'm gonna say it again. The Expanse is pretty good. I need to catch up on the last couple of seasons, but it's good stuff. Yeah, 'tis the season, because now you're starting to see the videos pop up of the Yule logs, and the lo-fi jazz with the Yule log and every variation therein. And this is just another one of those. I don't know what kind of music they're putting behind this, but nevertheless, there you go. Next up, though, Wonder Woman 1984 director Patty Jenkins reveals more about the upcoming spinoff. Patty Jenkins has teased further details about her upcoming Wonder Woman spinoff. The movie will focus on the Amazons, same thing, excuse me, a race of warrior women who Diana Prince lived with before she became Wonder Woman, and Jenkins will serve as producer of the project. Quote unquote, this is a story that Jeff Johns and I came up with and then introduced to Warner Brothers, according to the article. The events of this story takes place after Diana leaves Themyscira, the island of Amazons, and there's some twists and turns linked to what happened between Wonder Woman 1984 and Wonder Woman 3. The production of the project has not yet officially started, but I hope we get it because I love this story. So there you go. Next.
All right, Wonder Woman 1984 will be the first title that HBO Max streams in 4K resolution. It was announced that it's also going to support, depending on what your setup is capable of, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, and HDR10. The 4K stream will be available on Apple TV 4K, Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K, Amazon Fire TV Cube, and all you people that have 4K rigs.
And all right, because I am not one of them.
Same.
And it'll probably, by the time I get a 4K TV, it'll probably be 8K out. And I know that those are out, so. Anyway, so hey, good luck for all you. Matter of fact, I think it might say in this article, it's like, please find, Patty Jenkins says in the tweet that is linked to in this article, please find the biggest and highest quality screen you can. Because of everything that is in here. I'm like, you know what? Me and my little 1080p and my old ass receiver are going to be just fine, I think. Next up, Gal Gadot to star in James Bond style action franchise from the old guard's Greg Rucka. So apparently, Gadot will play the lead in Heart of Stone, which sounds like an old Batman TAS episode. That's me editorializing that. Which is an original James Bond-style action franchise centered around an international spy from Skydance Media, as reported by Deadline. Rucka, who wrote the Old Guard comic series and the Old Guard movie for Netflix, wrote the script for Heart of Stone with Alison Schroeder, who was nominated for the Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar for Hidden Figures. Gotcha. Deadline reports that Heart of Stone will put a female spin on franchises like Mission Impossible and 007. Director has not yet been confirmed, but Tom Harper of The Aeronauts and Peaky Blinders is currently in talks to direct. All right, I'm intrigued. I still have not seen that Old Guard movie. I hear it's all right.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah. Anyway, next up.
All right, next up, the first 5 episode titles of The Flash Season 7 have been revealed, already teasing the delayed conclusion of the Mirror Master arc. and a fearful future for the team. Production on The Flash season 6 was disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, the season was cut short, concluding with 19 episodes rather than its requisite 22. The move served to leave several dramatic cliffhangers unresolved. So the CW since released those first 5 episode titles and hint at potentially what's to come regarding the lingering developments that were left hanging as a result of the shutdown. The premiere episode will be called All's Well That Ends Well, and it goes on from there. So for fans of The Flash, I hope you're happy that it's finally coming.
Indeed. And I really, man, they need to slow down or either just stop on these doggone theory, these theory articles, because some of this stuff gets stupid. Because if you're watching the video, you can see the one I'm pointing to right now, which has something to do with the Mandalorian, which I don't know if I should even give credence to. Nevertheless, next up, Aquaman director, please don't play, stop playing. Aquaman director James Wan is making a new Van Helsing movie. So after the Dark Universe debacle in 2017, the success of this year's The Invisible Man showed that the universe's catalog of movie monsters could still produce a box office hit. I did not know there was an Invisible Man movie this year. The studio has several other classic monster movies in development, and it's been revealed that Conjuring and Aquaman director James Wan is working on a new movie about Van Helsing. As reported by Deadline, Wan will produce what is described as an original horror thriller featuring the iconic vampire hunter who was created by writer Bram Stoker and first appeared in the classic novel Dracula. The film will be directed by Julius Avery, who previously helmed the J.J. Abrams-produced World War II horror, Overlord. The movie does not yet have a release date. So, there you go. Another Van Helsing movie. Probably without Hugh Jackman, I would imagine. Next up.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say that makes sense.
Yeah.
They're gonna reboot. All right, next up. Every time I see this new name, I think of E.T. Elliot Page.
I did actually think that also.
What's that?
I did actually think that also when I first saw it.
I can't help it. The Oscar-nominated star of Juno and Netflix's The Umbrella Academy has announced he is transgender. Elliot, formerly known as Ellen Page, addressed his social media followers with the announcement. It's a bit on the long side, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. But he thanks for everyone for their support, and it's noted here in the article that Page uses both he, him, and they, them pronouns and describes himself as transgender and non-binary, meaning that their gender identity is neither man nor woman. Okay, yeah. So congratulations to him and them. Elliot, I can't. How many Elliots do you run into? That's the worst part. So when I saw that was the name that he chose, I was just like, well, it makes sense. Yeah. Because it flips from Ellen to Elliot. But right. The one thing I know about Elliot, other than Elliot Ness, is E.T.
And Elliot Gould.
Well, not spelled like that, but I guess when I first read it, I don't think of Elliot Gould. Well, so just think of Elliot. You know what I mean? Just say it.
But yeah, this, and I think this was like from a couple of days ago, and without little hyperbole, this kind of set the internet ablaze, because when this got out fully that morning, because I remember when I saw it that morning, and just my timeline went lit up, with well wishes and all that kind of good mess, and so it was like, yeah, it this one took off. So shout out to Elliot Page, live your best life.
There you go.
That's what we're all trying to do. Next up.
Yeah, flip these stories. Start with the Tim Dog story.
Okay. Flip. Suicide Squad, Godzilla vs. Kong, Matrix 4, and more heading to HBO Max in 2021. So WarnerMedia has announced that it's releasing its entire 2021 film slate on HBO Max, which will include the aforementioned movies. and much more. The WarnerMedia films will be available for their first months on HBO Max while also viewing in theaters, and probably setting a precedent. A set precedent that was actually, well, I mean, it's not like it hasn't been done before, but yeah, this is probably a bigger one than previously. Anyway, following the first month, each film will only be available in domestic and international theaters. So basically, the same model that Wonder Woman in 1984 is going through. The rest of these movies are going to be doing the same thing, which includes a whole bunch of movies. I'm not going to go into that, but also one that we'll probably talk about in a second, Mortal Kombat. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's going to be put out that way. And I'm going to say yay, because I think I have my HBO Max through the end of next year.
Nice.
I believe. I can't remember. I need to see it. Because I know with that whole DC Universe thing, there's been a change. So I'm going to have to actually look into that a little bit more. But yeah, I think I might be good for 2021 and HBO Max. So, yay. But I guess I'll go ahead and do this next one since it's related. Warner Brothers boss explains simultaneous HBO Max theater releases. Going by what was just said, it just says that I'm going to start by saying the obvious. We're in the middle of a pandemic, says WarnerMedia head Jason Kilar. Despite all of us wishing that this pandemic goes away extremely quickly, like a Band-Aid being ripped off, everyone we talk to in the medical community suggests that this will persist in terms of consumer behavior and the medical situation for a bit of 2021, because people can't keep the goddamn masks on and stay away out of public places, especially here in the States, dumbasses. Anyway, as for the financials of this release mode, Kilar said that, I'm not going to go through all of that, but basically he talks about financials and he basically said it's the right thing to do for fans, and that's the kind of the bottom line in this. And is the often mentioned, model that spurs from Wonder Woman and going into the rest of the stuff that we just mentioned. So, cool. I'm not complaining about this. Hopefully more places will do it. I doubt it because they want, and obviously, as Agent 70 said before the show, the theater owners not too pleased with this. Well, actually, I take that back, because they were pleased with the fact that Wonder Woman kind of came out. There were some that kind of came out and said, yeah, this is cool because it's still going to be in theaters. So obviously, they're still cool with that. But
Right, because they're going to get the diehards, the people that insist on seeing it on a big screen. Right. And there are movies like that, at least amongst this release slate, that I would definitely consider going to see on the big screen after probably seeing it at home.
Right.
Just because I want to see it on the big screen. So,
right.
But at the same time, we all know that the initial run of every movie is where most of its money is made. So that's the difficult part of it.
Right. But some of it makes it up in the home releases, though. Some of them.
Right. Some of them. Following up on this, on these stories, this is the big story of today, really. Mortal Kombat, one of the films on that slate, has debuted a new movie logo. Following that news, star Louis Tan posted an updated logo for the film on Twitter. The new logo features golden letters and a sleeker version of the iconic Mortal Kombat dragon logo. Game Changer 2021, Tan wrote. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look that far removed from the older movie treatments or even the game ones, but sure, it's a good looking logo.
All right, and shout out to @TimDog98 for providing us that the main story of WarnerMedia announcing this full slate of movies going to HBO Max.
Sure, Tim over there busting it up. And I believe that is it for the cinematic news.
Yep,
it sure is. So now we transition over into the comic book news. And we start off with Image Comics' Homesick Pilots is a punk rock ghost story from Dan Waters and Casper Weingard. Is it Weingard? Is that right? I'm hoping that's right. Anyway, a grunge rock horror story is hitting shelves just in time for Christmas with Homesick Pilots #1. In December of 1984, a haunted house walks across California, piloted by the lead singer of a high school punk band. The mystery behind how she got there and what these ghosts want will be answered in the Image Comics series debuting in December. So, there you go. That's the thing. And then the rest of the article basically talks about what this is, and there's an article with Waters and Weingard about the series. So you can check it out on the show notes. Next up,
John Ridley initially thought DC created Black Label for him. This is mildly tongue-in-cheek. Writer John Ridley, when he was approached by DC Comics to write the other history of the DC Universe for their Black Label imprint, initially thought that it was an imprint created for him. He basically relayed a story of himself talking to Jim Lee and Dan DiDio, and they were talking about finding the right format, and then they came back and said, yeah, we got this thing, we're going to do Black Label. And Ridley told CBR during a conference call, Ridley was like, oh, wow, they're giving me my own label. It's for, the black guy. And of course, they had to explain that that's not why it was called the Black Label, but very much tongue-in-cheek.
Although they've given lesser people whole ass lines of but you know what, never mind, I'm not going to go back on that one again.
I was about to say, bear in mind that they've reduced the number of lines recently.
I mean, true, but that doesn't mean that he still haven't given them in the first place. Like, why did Gerard Way anyway, whatever. So yeah, that was amusing. We're not even talking about the Bendis thing, we're talking about this whole other situations. Batman just unmasked himself to several Gotham villains. And apparently this is the spoilers from Batman Gotham Knights #20, which is probably already out, or I don't know if that came out this week or came out last week, regardless. So yeah, apparently that happened during the course of the story. I didn't actually read this article to see what happened, but apparently he unmasked himself to save the life of one of Gotham PD's finest, I guess. So yeah, there you go. Next.
Okay, apparently the Superman title is given the Daily Planet a jaw-dropping new owner, and Roddykat advises CBR to tone down on the hyperbole.
Calm down, it's not that serious.
Shots fired at the editorial staff at CBR. Oh no! Apparently, in short, the Daily Planet moves past its latest scandals. In Action Comics number 1027, the company gains a familiar face as its latest owner, Jimmy Olsen. I did not know he had that kind of dough.
Well, see, and this is where I come in and say, yeah, because this has been because of the fact that I read his actually, speaking of Fraction, read his miniseries of it. I think it's just wrapped up, and probably seeing it somewhere else. Come to find out that Jimmy Olsen's family has got a lot of money, like founding family money. Like his family pretty much helped found Metropolis.
Okay.
So he's got money. And so knowing that, it's like, okay, well, yeah, his family's got money. So, and granted, he's just been there as a photographer. I don't even know what his status is at that point. And just because I don't really keep up with that whole miniseries was kind of way more tongue-in-cheek than, it's some Fraction craziness, but it was good for what it was. But regardless, it's not. I guess it's the biggest surprise for longtime readers, but I feel like some of these longtime readers probably know that, yeah, his family's got money, because I feel like that's not the only place that tidbit of information has shown up in DC. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And the fact that, classically Jimmy Olsen is just like, yeah, he's Superman's sidekick, and he's always getting in trouble, and this and that, and that miniseries kind of does go into some of that also. But outside of the fact that
this is a relatively recent revelation, right?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It came up, like I said, it came up a lot in that miniseries, but it feels like it was something that was already established beforehand. That part I don't know, honestly know.
Right.
So, but that's where I found out about it. So I would assume I'm probably not the only one. And since you didn't know either, that was just like that's probably the revelation for you also. And maybe that was the thing that just came out during the course of that. I don't honestly know. So yeah, Jimmy Olsen's owns the Daily Planet now. So, but like it's like jaw dropping. It's like it's really not. Like I said, knowing that information, it's not that. And plus, even if that's the case, like it could have been such a thing. It was like, no, I've been with the Daily Planet for forever and a day, and I saved up my pennies, and just so happened to have enough. I don't know. But yeah, his family's got money, so it doesn't really matter. Next up, though.
Next.
The Lost Superman's PlayStation game has appeared in public, but you probably won't play it. Superman 64 is a 1994 Nintendo 64 title that has the unfortunate reputation as being one of the worst video games made ever. E.T. and that the other Atari 2600 game of note would beg to differ, but sure. Anyway, now the lost PlayStation version.
E.T.? No.
Well, E.T. and there was like there was shoot, there was another one that was kind of problematic. Let's just say that was also not good from the 2600 area. I don't think never really saw a release, but nevertheless.
Okay.
Yeah, but E.T. definitely yes in that number. But anyway, now the lost PlayStation version of that very same, very dreadful game has been posted online. The original Superman 64 was designed by French developer Titus Interactive, with the PlayStation port handled by its U.S. subsidiary Blue Sky Software. But when Warner Brothers pulled Titus's license to use his IP, for probably understandable reasons, the port was canceled. So yeah, so apparently the PlayStation port of a Nintendo 64 Superman game that was terrible in the first place is now available for, I guess, people to I don't know where you get it from, but apparently there's a DeviantArt post where the dude's like, hey, here's some art from it. So if you are masochistic enough, and I got a feeling I probably might be, I might check this out for that one series of Twitch streams that I've been doing. The horror. Anyway, next up, after a few leaks and rumors earlier in the year, the virtual DC Fandom event finally confirmed that WB Montreal's latest project is Gotham Knights. The game seemingly kills off Batman and places his Bat family in the lead role, letting players select between characters like Robin, Batgirl, Red Hood, and Nightwing. Following its reveal a few months ago, the game has seemingly gone dark, though new details have started to come to light, including a major single-player feature. Okay. Yeah, I mean, chances are we probably won't see much more on this game until either it comes out or E3 of next year. So that's not that big of a surprise. But yeah, good to know it's going to have single player. Because way too many players. But I can see this one actually being a multiplayer. Kind of similarly to Marvel's Avengers. So. But this is being made by Rocksteady, so it's probably going to be a little bit better. Oh, wait, actually, this is not the one being made by Rocksteady.
This is Montreal, whatchamacallit, I just said it.
Right, yeah. No, I was thinking about the other one that's coming out, because they're usually the one that's doing the Arkham stuff. So, anyway, that's beside the point. Next up, though, Funko launches Build Your Own Personalized Figurines with Pop People. In a personally surprised they didn't have this well before now, there's a new line of figurines that seeks to respond to demand for customized pops. And apparently it says here that there's no shortage of people who looked at Funko Pops and said, I want one that looks like me. I don't know who those people are, honestly. And there are certain persons in Hollywood that have tasked their minions into fruitless entreaties. This is the article saying all of this, to convince the Everett, Washington-based company to make figurines out of their likeness, or only to be rebuffed. Well, dreams do come true, especially at Funko's Hollywood location. The company announced Tuesday that it's launching Pop People, a silo of customized figurines that allow customers to create Pop stylized figures themselves. Grandma, spouses, bosses, or anyone else they might love or love to hate. Beginning December 11th, the Funko headquarters in Everett and Funko Hollywood will have many Pop factories that will offer thousands of combinations of hair, apparel, and more to create the likenesses you're looking for. So that line of Comic Book Chronicles Pop figures that you've been looking for, coming to you, not really, ever. But hey, you know, go for Delph, I always say. So yeah, that's the thing. It's December 11th. They're gonna be $25, as this article says, per pop. I was gonna say a pop, but it would have been the same thing. So yeah, that's the thing. You know, like those customized Nike sneakers and Xbox controllers, you can now do pops a similar way, except for probably a little bit more customized than either one of those. Next up.
All right. When I read this, forgive me for thinking of Russell Peters, the comedian.
Mm-hmm.
The first board game promises this is going to hurt. I don't know if you've ever seen Russell Peters' stand-up comedy.
I have not.
A new board game based on the hit comic series The Boys from First Games and Dynamite Entertainment is coming to tabletops near you. Although the board game titled The Boys, This Is Going to Hurt, doesn't have an official release date as of yet, it recently reached its funding goal of $50,000 on Kickstarter. In the game, players take on the role of CIA agents who must attempt to bring down the all-powerful Soup Homelander before he kills us all. Good luck. Next up.
Indeed. More toy news. Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom. 3 new figures revealed, and those are Air Razor, Dinobot, and Ultra Magnus, which I'm actually might get the Air Razor one because that is a figure from Beast Wars that I don't recall having a figure. And if it did, I never saw it, I don't think. So yeah, so there's like I said, if you're watching the video version, you can see the the pics of Air Razor, Dinobot also from Beast Wars, and Ultra Magnus figure, which all will be available through Hasbro Pulse. And pre-order is actually pre-order started yesterday as of this recording, and will arrive on April 1st, 2021. Which that's kind of I don't know. Why would you do that on April Fool's Day? I don't know. Anyway, the approximate figure. Let's see. Air Razor's $20, Dinobot's $30, and Ultra Magnus is $50. So there you go. Might actually get the Ultra Magnus one too, but the Air Razor one's probably going to be the one. Next up.
Toy watchdog World Against Toys Causing Harm, really watch, at least they got their acronym right, released its annual list of big ticket holiday toys that to warn parents about so that little ones don't spend the festivities choking on small parts or in an alternative timeline firing Boba Fett's rocket backpack into each other's eyeballs. 2020's list of the 10 worst quote-unquote toys of the year, however, via IGN, sees a Star Wars item take crowning place, the coveted Darksaber of Mandalore. The Darksaber electronic lightsaber costs $30 and features a light-up blade and sound effects of it crackling and clashing when you swing it around. But apparently Watch fears that young kids wanting to be a mini Moff Gideon or Pre Vizsla or like Roddykat says, Sabine Wren or Bo-Katan Kryze Christmas Day, because they might, use it like a large plastic sword and whack people with it. So this seems pretty silly for Watch, but hey, they got to get clicks somehow.
That seems pretty serious too. So, like, I thought we were past the days of these watchdog groups, but apparently we are not.
Well, I mean, I understand choking hazards,
I do too, but also it's a big plastic sword. What do you?
Yeah, exactly. I understand poking in the eye hazards, but come on, it's a big plastic sword.
Right. It's also worth noting that this article actually, and that was the article who mentioned Sabine and Bo-Katan, but it also mentions that the Black Panther power effects vibranium claws, which I think I have a set of, was also on this list.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it also, as this article notes, at the end of it, it's like, yeah, kids have been swinging around large plastic swords since there were large plastic swords, or in this case, toy lightsabers, or since before there were toy lightsabers. So, like, oh, okay, you buy these for your kids, you kind of getting what you're expecting. Also, I kind of want that darksaber. I'm just gonna put that out there. If that's gonna happen, I don't know, but I guess we'll find out at some point. True believers. Next up. Put Baby Yoda on your wrist with Vodafone and Disney's Neo smartwatch. European.
Okay. You know what I was going to say? I understand why they might be a little pickier about this because it does come to a point, as opposed to like rounded edge.
And I believe it does have obviously like this, like the darksaber does have serrated edges on the parts of the sword part. So I mean, I'm not saying I don't get the need to watch for this, but like I would like to believe that parents, parents can do this on their own and not need people to tell them that this is a thing that's, But then again, I've been wrong before because there are, aforementioned idiots about in this country and more. So
much.
So there is a place for all of this. Anywho, European mobile carrier Vodafone has partnered with Disney to launch a new wearable for kids called the Neo. Not to be confused with the Matrix. Vodafone says the Neo combines the technological capabilities, combines its technological capabilities with Disney's entertainment chops to offer a wearable that gives kids a sense of independence while letting parents stay in contact. The Neo's most notable feature is its Disney branding. The Yves Bayard designed watch lets kids choose from a collection of sidekicks that will hang out on the main clock screen, including the child Baby Yoda, Grogu from The Mandalorian, Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story, and Minnie Mouse. Vodafone says that the sidekicks, not to be confused with the sidekick from Motorola, will animate throughout the day, and the company plans to add more characters over time with no editor. I feel like I see a couple of adults getting this for this. There's some hardcore Disney fans out there. Y'all don't know, or maybe you do know, but I feel like there's probably going to be a Disney fan or two that's going to get this for that feature.
That's funny.
Whether they wear it or not, this is a whole nother situation, but I also see some people doing that, depending on how the watch band is. Anyway, that's that. Next up,
one of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse's iconic characters is entering the Marvel Contest of Champions. Spider-Ham is the newest playable character for the mobile game, with comedian John Mulaney reprising his role as the animated crime fighter. To celebrate Spider-Ham's December release, a new motion comic titled Back on the Air was released on YouTube. The short film features Spider-Ham fighting several threats, including Ultron and the Skrulls, as well as politicians. Eventually, he is drawn to audition for a spot on an animated series and comes face-to-face with the maniacal Mojo. That's cool that they got John Mulaney to come back for that.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, what else is he doing? But I think he's probably still doing some stand-up somewhere. So, and I was about to go into the Simpsons Spider Pig, but I totally don't remember all of the words, so it's probably just as well. Next up, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales player finds another Inhumans Easter egg. By and large, it seems that Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales overall includes fewer sly references and Easter eggs than the previous video game, Marvel Spider-Man, but it does have its fair share, as we've noted in the past couple of weeks, by the way, on this very show. Anyway, notably, the standalone video game keeps much of what it was in the previous title, including the Lockjaw statue on Wall Street, but there is yet another, which I don't think I've come across that Lockjaw status in the previous game. But there's also yet another Inhumans Easter egg in the video game, apparently. Specifically, a player discovered a second, smaller Lockjaw statue inside one of the game's many hideouts. It looks pretty much exactly like the larger statue of the Inhumans companion, and could very well be just an appropriately sized version of the same asset. So yeah, and this article goes on to say that in also Lockjaw being an inhuman companion also palled around with Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel. So that is kind of curious as to why it is there, though, as this article kind of goes on to say. Like, maybe, possibly. Oh, so as to why it's even there, exists a giant Lockjaw status in the Spider-Man game in the first place. The short version is lawyers. Shout out to H70. Let me stop. Insomniac Games wasn't able to use the Charging Bull statue that exists in the real-life physical locations for legal reasons, so the company made up a new statue to replace it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Although, one would still argue, why Lockjaw? I mean, it still stands to reason. Like, they could have pretty much gone with anything. I'm not mad with it. I want to state that right now. And I'm going to find this, which I guess brings me to the stream that I said I was going to do on this here Twitch channel, Comic Book Chronicles. I was going to go through New York, which I should have done a few years ago, and go through all of the Marvel Universe spots that are in the game, because there are plenty. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I'll do it. Including a couple of them that are actually not noted, because you have to go around in the original game and take pictures of these landmarks, but there are some landmarks that are not noted, like the Horizon, Horizon company. I think Heart is also in there, but it's not really noted as a place of landmark. So there are places within the Spider-Man mythos and whatnot that are not necessarily, obviously, places like Hell's Kitchen and stuff like that are well documented. I think Avengers Mansion is there. Well, Avengers Mansion is not noted, and that kind of bummed me out. But I think there is supposedly a version there that's not too far from Avengers Tower. Anyway, regardless, that all of that will be dealt out at some point. I'm sure there's probably an article out there that states where all the landmarks are. Next up,
writer Kevin Shinnick says work continues on W.E.B. of Spider-Man, like we mentioned last week, despite Marvel pulling the limited series from its schedule earlier this month. They didn't pull it permanently, Shinnick tweeted in response to Newsarama's reporting of the hiatus. They are hard at work on this book and excited to share when the time is right. Good for them.
Indeed. So yeah, because we previously thought that it was just off the books, and apparently, it's not necessarily, not fully. Anyway, Marvel canceled Star Wars Rise of Skywalker adaptation, Morbius, and more. So apparently Marvel Comics has canceled 4 of its upcoming titles, including Star Wars Rise of Skywalker movie adaptation and the ongoing Morbius system, which I think is already sitting at 4 or 5 issues already? Or 3 or 4 issues already?
I know there's a few issues out. I don't remember exactly how many.
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely a couple of issues of it already. Anyway, other titles being canceled include the Amazing Spider-Man Daily Bugle miniseries, which I believe also has had a couple of issues, and the Dark Agnes miniseries based on Robert E. Howard, the character of the same name. All 4 series were solicited before COVID-19 pandemic and were placed on 2 months hiatus along with the rest of Marvel titles, while publication resumed in late yada 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 yada. Like I said, I know a couple of these definitely had some issues out.
Right.
So, go figure. I think the Rise of Skywalker one was the one that didn't come about. And that I thought that Dark Agnes one might have actually had an issue come out also.
I don't think so. I don't think it made it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, and also mentions Children of Adam, which we haven't seen. Oh, it says that Vita Alaya, who was writing Morbius, they are still continuing to work with Marvel penning the Children of the Atom series, which we've been kind of looking forward to as a part of the Reign of X storyline. And yeah, it does say here that the first 5 issues of Morbius is out in a trade. So, okay. And yeah, the first 2 issues of that Dark Agnes series is actually also out, according to this article. So, cool.
One of those. It must be one of those books that we just kind of bypassed in our review copy. So
Right. Yeah, it's kind of one of those Conan spin-off books. It's like we don't really, yeah. And that Daily Bugle's kind of had a couple of them. So yeah, or something like that. Anyway, that's a thing. Next up.
next up, Chris Claremont returns to Wolverine comic books with Steve McNiven. So, the catch though is that the story, which follows up on themes and concepts originating from Claremont and Frank Miller's 1982 seminal Wolverine limited series, the story is going to appear in a comic book offered exclusively as part of the publisher's Marvel-made Paragon Claremont Collection collectible bundle on pre-order until today, December 4th. So by the time you listen to this in podcast form, it'll be too late. But if you are watching tonight as we record, please get out there. But if you want this, but remember, this is not a cheap thing at all. If you want to get in on this, the cost of this bundle is I'm looking for it now. It doesn't say in this article. Yeah. Lovely, but I know that this bundle is like $200.
Actually, let me flip through. Yes, $200 according to the link.
Mm-hmm.
So on that Marvel made channel, and they said this is supposed to be going out March 2021 when they put it out. So
yeah. When they put them, yep.
Yeah. So hopefully you diehard Claremont Wolverine fans are already on this, and I know there's some of y'all out there because I've seen the fan Twitters.
I was about to say I'm a fan, but I own all of those books.
Right.
Except like maybe there's like a random issue of like something. I remember looking at the list. I was like, I own that. No need to put that in a, it's cool that they have exclusive new stuff. That is cool, but it's not $200 worth of cool.
Right. But again, for those diehard fans, I'm sure who will buy up everything, this is for those folks.
Yep.
Next up, let's see. The Office is actually publishing The Adventures of Jimmy Halpert comic. Fans of the hit mockumentary comedy The Office will now be able to buy a comic book that was featured in the series as a holiday gift. The Adventures of Jimmy Halpert was a fictional comic book originally seen in Season 7, Episodes 11 and 12 of the series titled Classic Christmas. It was a gift made by the character Pam Beasley for her husband Jim. The Office fan and collectible site Dunder Mifflin Paper recently announced that its team made the comic book for purchase. So, yeah, that's the thing, I guess.
I mean, it's cool that it's that it's actually being published and it's actually coming out.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I never really watched The Office, so.
I mean, I binged it for before quarantine, and I watched most of it. I actually enjoyed that particular episode.
Mm-hmm.
I got a kick out of that, knowing that Pam was trying to become a professional artist or get noticed, and she did this as part of her way of trying to get with Jim. So it was pretty cool to see that on TV. So. Good that that's getting published. I know there's plenty of Office fans out there that would appreciate that.
For sure. And some would say that the real one was the British version. I'm stop. I'm not going to do that.
Oh, no. Last but not least, it appears that Godzilla is roaring back at IDW with multi-year publishing and gaming licensing deal. IDW because what I was going to say in regards to this is that I know that the Toho licenses for toys recently lapsed or recently ended with NECA. So any of the NECA, the NECA toys that are out there now, you won't see any more of those. So if you happen to be fans of those particular ones, they won't be made in that style again. So you may want to pick those up. I know that IDW had a license for Godzilla comics for a long time, and it must have expired because we haven't seen any Godzilla comics in a while. So it looks like they have re-upped, and the two sides have signed a multi-year licensing deal that includes comic books, tabletop games, and more. The first project, debuting in April 2021, is a 5-issue Godzilla miniseries targeted toward middle grade readers by Eric Burnham, Dan Scaning, and Luis Antonio Delgado. That's cool. Welcome back to comics.
So look out for that Godzilla and Ghostbusters crossover sometime in 2021, followed by the Transformers and Godzilla crossover, followed by the Godzilla, Transformers, and Power Rangers and Ghostbusters Blitz crossover in 2022. None of those are real, but I'm pretty sure the first two are.
Yeah.
I feel fairly confident on that one.
Pretty much. That's not a lie, you know?
Mm-hmm. So that is it for the news. We have one more ad read.
Our last ad read of the night is for Amazon. Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment to help us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
And as we come to the end of this here fine show, we'd like to thank each and every one of you folks for coming out. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdNeat on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites they're in, and probably still on Byte as comic book reviews, no vowels. The Osiris that is Ish, Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. Go check that out, follow it, say hey, how you doing? The Click Nation on Twitter, that's the KLIQ. NATION, all one word, theclicknation.com. And of course, as we have mentioned numerous times in this show, comic book resources, guess on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or the Coastal Lizard Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And of course, you can find us recording here live every Thursday night with a couple of exceptions. On youtube.com/theclicknation. That's again, I already spelled it and I'm not going to do it again. But also twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, which 9:30 p.m. Thursday 30-ish p.m. on that night, and the audio version comes out later on in the weekend, sometimes around Saturday, Sunday, on the aforementioned podcast sites. And so, folks, what's up?
Make sure you subscribe.
Oh, wait. Oops. I forgot this. There we go. Do that again.
I was about to say, and however you consume our content, make sure you hit subscribe.
Indeed. You know, smash that like button and all that kind of good jazz, which
I was going to leave that part out.
We already said it once. Might as well do it again. We'll probably never do that again. Hopefully, unless we're just like loopy or drunk or something, which that will happen. Anyway, next week, same bat time, same bat channel. We will see you folks here. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Wakanda forever!